Ah, you think you can win in this game of bean and cup. But what you didn't realise is I had 3 beans.
Oh no! Nani? Hello, by the way. Yes, we are live, aren't we? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. I saw the going live thing, but I wasn't sure because I didn't click the button. Hello, everyone. How are we doing? Early. Yeah, slightly early.
We did it.
But yes, we're here. It is the 6th of the 7th of the 24th year of the 21st century.
I guess.
That's a valid way of saying it.
Mostly.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, hello. How is everyone doing? Welcome to Two Guys Talk Tech again. We are back. Back once again with the ill behaviour. I don't know why I looked at you expectantly then. I wasn't sure if you were going to like follow up on that or whether you were going to be like, don't. Just don't.
I see. I don't
We
see.
have a show for you today. Anyway. Yes, hello everyone. We were not here last week, because we were, folks were over to visit. We had friends over from out of town and abroad, and we went to the Retro Computer Museum. What are the shots? Don't worry about it. So yes, we were at the Retro Computer Museum, and we had a good time. And there was a vague idea that we were going to do a start late show, but you know, like I think as soon as we got up in the morning and were on our way there, we were like, yeah, this isn't going to happen. We're not going to be back in time. We're going to be really tired by the time we get back. So there was no show. Anyway, we're here today and we've got news to talk about and I've got lights to fix. The eagle-eyed among you may recognise these as the lights that we've taken apart on the stream before. Not long after I got them because they had noisy fans in them and I wanted to make them quieter. So we put some Akasa fans in. And why did we use the Akasas? Were we just looking for quiet fans?
I think so. Also, just because
the
they
fans
were
they
slims.
Yeah, also the fans they came with were just bollocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the reason. However, unfortunately, these Akasa fans have all failed. At about the same time as well. Which is kind of disappointing, but then on the other hand, these ones run like 24/7 because the fan keeps going even when the light is in standby mode, which is kind of annoying. So they just sit with the fans spinning at low RPM 24/7, and like I must have had these for probably a year. So
yeah, because you got them for Prime Day.
Yeah, so it is entirely likely that. So I guess. Yeah, a cheap fan spinning for a year, yeah, it's going to fail, I guess. So, at any rate, they need new fans again. I'll show you what they sound like. If I turn this one on, you'll see. So I turned it on.
This button.
So yeah. I'm assuming that came across. So yes, obviously, when I heard that, I was like, wow, that's really annoying. I'm now going to have to replace all the fans in these again.
My bearings.
So yes, they're getting Noctuas. No, they're getting the cheapest fans I could find on Amazon because I'm like, if I'm going to have to replace these all the time, I'm going to keep putting in crap fans. That was £7 for 4.
Peng da lat to you.
Yeah. Also, it was just a matter of what I could get on next day as well.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to figure out another solution to these. I have a suspicion that these ones that I use at home for my Twitch streams, I think these could probably run passive because I run these lights at like 20% brightness. I need to actually put it to the test. I think what I need to do is I need to jury rig one of them, possibly the third one that's on the YouTube bench. So I can disconnect the fan, like just run the cable outside of the housing or something so I can just disconnect it. And I need to run it at high brightness and just keep an eye on the temperature and just see what temperature it actually gets up to so I can see how much the fan is actually needed. Because, yeah, I'm not convinced they actually need the fans. And if that's the case, then I will just disconnect the fans in these. So yes. Spray it with lithium grease. Yeah, or just put new fans in. Yeah. Fan bearings are not worth fixing. So yeah. So yes. So that's the plan today.
You have been supplied at least 2 fans that aren't shot.
Yeah. I think there were 60mm fans in there. Yeah, there must have been. I can't see a world where there were 70mm. But yeah, we'll open them up and we'll see. Oh, there's my other wick. All right. Let's see. So I'm going to start opening these up while we chat, and then also we've got some news topics that we can chat about while we do it.
Yeah,
so,
because these were the cheapest fans ever, kind of thing. I half expected 3 of them to turn up with shot bearings.
Yeah.
And you just be like, oh.
Yeah, or they might just have a really annoying noise to them, because the original ones, they didn't have shot bearings, but they were just, they had a vibration to them, a hum to them that was really noticeable. But also, I think I wanted quiet fans in these because I wanted to be able to switch them on and off using the remote, but I think I'm going to just resign myself to the fact of I will just have to use the switch on them when I'm not using them. And considering considering these lights only get turned on twice a week for 4 hours, I think it's not going to kill me just to get out of my seat and switch them on. I think it was just kind of annoying because at the time when I bought them, I was specifically excited to have a remote control from them, just so I could literally just go, lights on, you know. But there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because, like, the one, obviously the one I've got, which isn't the RGB one, but just the 100-watt light, if you turn that off on the remote, it turns the fan off because it actually just turns everything off. So yeah. Yeah,
kind of annoying.
But also, that's a 100-watt light that was more than all of these were.
Yes, these were incredibly cheap, these lights, and they're for the amount I paid for them, because I think I ended up paying like it was like 80 or 100 quid for 3 of them with all the stands and the long boy stand and the whole like shooting match and stuff. They were crazy good bang for buck. So like, I'm not sad about them. It's just a matter of just trying to get something together that works for me with what I have. So yes. As soon as the fan sounds noisy, spray it with psyllium lithium grease to relube it. No, yeah, you can't service fans. It might last an hour, a week, maybe a month, and then it'll just fail again. Yeah, I've never serviced a fan and had it actually last. Any time I have relubed a fan, it is just like these. I mean, these are laptop fans. I'll give you that. But anytime I've relubed a laptop fan, it's just come back again within a month with the same issue. So it's just not worth it. Just not worth it in my opinion. But yes, how many lights are there? There are 3 in total. I've got 2 of them on the bench and the other one is on the YouTube stand over there. I'll go and get that one if we get through these really quick. This probably won't take long because we're
4 lights.
This probably won't take that long because like we're not messing around with these. I'm just going to plug in another fan. I don't know if I need to desolder stuff though.
Because there wasn't actually a connector, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, okay, I might have to go and get the soldering iron and stuff. Fair enough. Do you want to put us on bench cam while I take these apart? You can rewind the fan motor. Yes, we could.
I see.
Probably need to... Oh, no, there we go. Oh, that wasn't bad for an initial shot. All right. I'll leave you to start the software and square that up.
Maybe. There we go. Oh no!
You've been watching DIY motor videos and they make it look easy. Yeah, YouTubers have a habit of doing that when they're very good at the specific thing they do. But yeah, when it comes to fans, unless it's some kind of very exotic fan, they're just not worth servicing. All right. Oh yeah, this had a weird design on it. We had all the white LEDs on one ring, and then all the color ones on. Oh no, those were the color ones, the single chip ones, and then there's white ones on the center bit. Oh, you're a bit singed. What happened to you? That must be a manufacturing defect. All right. I have a suspicion I do actually need to desolder the wires to the LED panel. I thought we wouldn't have to do that if I'm just quickly swapping fans in and out, but I think we do actually need to completely disassemble these.
From memory, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Explore the best of Minions. No. No. No.
Absolutely not.
No. I was seeing if they'd, if Amazon had started listing all of the Prime Day stuff.
Ah, I see.
Because there's oftentimes they do list it early.
I see.
Yes. No.
Your Dyson Hot Cool has lasted 7 years. Oh yeah, that's a Dyson fan. That's kind of a different kettle of fish, man. That's kind of a different. Oh, that's way bigger. No, that's a 70mm fan. Unless, oh yeah, no, that fan is just way bigger. That's like 90mm. Whoops. Oh well. Yeah, I probably should have reviewed the old VOD of these, but it is what it is. Right. What on earth did I do with this? Okay, yeah. Oh, that's not so bad, actually. So there are connectors on this. I think I can do this without desoldering, actually. This actually might not take a very long time because I'm not going to... So at the moment, what we've got in here is we've got an Acacia. We've got an Acacia fan with a series resistor in there just to slow it down. And I've just, and then that's just straight onto the board. So yes, and is that feeling? I'll have to take it out to get what that feels like. But yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll just lob this in there and just hopefully it won't be too noisy and just hope for the best, I think. The small fan will be completely adequate for it. These things don't need a lot of cooling, so...
Because there's not actually that much heat. It's just the fact of you really need
I think it's
to remove some of it because obviously high temperatures and the LEDs do die.
Yes. And yeah, in addition to that as well is obviously passive cooling is like the slightest bit of airflow is orders of magnitude better than passive. So you need to have something there. Let's get that screw out. Yeah, okay. Might not be too exciting. I think I can get this out without having to desolder stuff. There we go, that's just comfrey. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I did crimes with this. Ah, the wires go through each other. Am I going to cut that wire? Yes, I am. I'm going to cut that wire. There's no plan to reuse these fans, so who cares? Also, just because fairly certain that the fan bearing is knackered anyway. I cut the wrong wire.
Oh, Graham.
It's fine. Okay, there we go. Right, fan out. Oh yeah, that's mega broken. So when you take the fan out, if you just tap your fingers on the rotor, if the rotor like rocks, then the bearing is shot. And yeah, that's mega busted. Bit unfortunate because we bought Acacia fans hoping they would be decent, but also these fans were suspiciously cheap when we bought them. So I think these are just no better than any other Chinese tat fan. They've just got Acacia stickers on them. So I guess I'm not really surprised.
Completely unrelated to anything, but purely because it came up as a recommended item to the lists of discount stuff. I was trying to see if there was anything interesting in there.
Yeah.
A gaming laptop.
Okay.
£1,200.
Okay.
Ryzen 7 8445HS. Good.
Okay, yep. Pretty good.
16 gigs of RAM.
Yeah.
Terabyte SSD.
Yeah.
RTX 4060. Okay. 165 Hz 16-inch screen. Right, that's not offensive.
Yeah. I mean, like, that 4060 is going to be a bit of a damp flannel, isn't it? But on the flip side, I can't see you doing any better.
Yeah, it's also a
kind of,
1080p class screen. It's
yeah,
1200p.
I kind of feel that should be $1,000 or like 999 kind of thing. But yeah, however, you do get a terabyte of storage and 16 gigs of RAM. You know, they haven't skimped on anything.
Yeah.
So yes. Let's see. Get an old case fan. There's no room, unfortunately.
Yeah, because they use 50. Isn't it like 15mm fans or something?
Yeah, these are. I don't know. Yes, these one. Oh, I think these ones might be 10mm fans. Or 15. I'm not sure. I can't remember if they're 10 or 15 now. Where are the calipers? They're over here. Yeah, so the issue, I think we went through this the last time we were looking at these. We were like, could we possibly fit some kind of oversized fan in there? Yeah, these are 10mm fans. Yeah, we went through the motions of like, could we fit something oversized in there? But the issue is we thought we could probably fit in something thicker, but you also actually need space around the fan for the air to get into the fan. And if you could put a thicker fan in there, but then there would be no clearance for air to actually get into the fan blades.
Oh dear.
So you'd put a big fan in there and it would do nothing because there was no airflow. So it was kind of necessary to use the very thin fans.
It'd be like a fan against tempered glass.
Yes, indeed. And the annoying thing is, because that circuit board is at the back, there doesn't seem to be any way of like, because I would not be opposed is to just like cutting a chunk out the back of the light, because on the back you're like, oh, that's just battery holders. I'm not battery powering these, I'm mains powering them. But the issue is there is a circuit board here. So even though that looks blank and you're like, oh, could you just cut a vent through there? No, the circuit board is there. So so yeah, there's not really.
How far does it go down? Oh yeah, no, it goes down too far.
Yeah, it goes down pretty far. So there's just, yeah, there's nothing meaningful that we can do to bodge in something bigger. Damn, you found the secret message. Oh, it's still there, it's still there. It just fell down slightly. I'll put it up here though. Cat was here.
I initially read that as cat washer.
I see. The cat washer message is still there, yes. All right, make a 3D printed case for them.
Oh.
That's quite a big undertaking, but interesting concept. I think if I was doing that, I'd probably like custom design everything else, because like what I would love is RGB softbox lights with a USB interface, so I could tie them into OBS and stuff, which is what you can do with things like the Elgato ones. So that would be kind of cool.
Goodbye.
But yeah, that's a cool idea, but also a large undertaking. Okay, right. Can I get this fan to fit in? How am I going? This fan is too small. But I can just put a single screw in there. That's fine. All right. I need to adjust this to.
You don't need.
Don't.
See.
One screw is all you need, says Caradog.
Just one screw. Give it to me.
CPU cooler, one screw. It's not going to fall off.
Oh, no, it needs two. One on each side.
Okay, right. Let's put this in. You paid £1,000 for your Nitro 16 last year with £300 discount. Yeah, that's fairly good. What graphics card did that have in it? Wow, this thing is going to have no clearance. It's too thin. That's not going to work. I need some kind of washer in there. I think I've got some rubber washers, so I'm going to grab my tray of random oddments.
My random accessories.
Oh yeah, there's loads in here. This will be great. Hopefully these will fit. So my random tray of random standoffs, I've got a bunch of these rubber washers, so I can put one over the post, which will just make the fan stand up a little bit. Yes, that will work nicely. And if I'm lucky, that will also just help silence vibration from the fan as well. Why do you need extra RGB on something that can do RGB? I want to be able to control the RGB from my PC. Because that means that like when streaming on Twitch, I can have like a Twitch reward to make the lights go RGB and stuff. But also another effect that I really want to do.
Oh, that's not bad.
There's a...
I hadn't thought of that, yeah.
but also another effect that I would love to be able to do is I've seen VTubers do it where they have a program that does shader lighting on their VTuber model depending on the game environment. So when they walk into a cave in the game, their character darkens, and when they're in bright sunlight, it brightens, and so on and so forth. So you get like explosion flashes on the character. And I'm like, wouldn't it be really cool if you could have the softboxes do RGB accent lighting for the game? So I am physically colored as the game is. And so when I go into a dark place, my face lighting tones down and stuff. And when I go out into bright sunlight, suddenly they get really bright. And I'm like, whoa, you know, how cool would that be, you know?
I like that.
Yeah, I don't know if the Elgato ones can do that, but if they can't, they're missing a trick, you know. But that's you know, that would be my aspiration. Right, I have no idea which is the positive and negative, so I'm going to get a multimeter and check.
Interesting. Would you like what is functionally a 200 watt RGB light?
Blimey. No, I do not need to light up the person next door through a wall. It had a 4050, but yeah, oh, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, a 4050 needs to be less than $1,000 to be, you know, so yeah, that sounds about right then. If you Loctite the screw, it might not loose until next time. I mean, none of the screws have come loose anyway, so that's not really an issue. Everyone always tells me to use Loctite, and I just don't have an issue with screws coming loose. So, yeah, no, it doesn't need it. It's fine. Right, I'm going to check where the negative is on this. Right, what do I think is a ground plane? Probably the flood fill. Cool, so the left pin is ground, and actually, yeah, that tallies with how the old fan was connected, so good. Left pin ground. That's the same alarm as my morning alarm, so I'm just suddenly getting PTSD. I'm like, where am I? So,
are you awake?
Are you really awake? Wake up, George. Okay, right.
The other option as well, which is the thing I was looking for, is something like that, because Noctua make a computer controlled light.
Yes.
Light, which is like the app control.
Yeah.
But on PC.
Yeah, I could buy a solution for this. You know, like again, as you say, Noctua make them as well because they're all the rage at the moment. However, that would require buying new lights again, which I don't really want to do. Right, I'm just trying to.
I was just trying to.
Down there.
Yeah, it was surprisingly difficult to find evidence that they still existed, because I just can't actually find them on the Noctua website.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Right, that goes in there. Now I need to peek to make sure that none of the wires are going into the fan.
Oh, the inference is that, that it may interface with the Elgato stuff.
Yeah, that'd be neat.
That'd be some interesting hacksawing.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me because Corsair seem to be fairly cool about other people's equipment using their software, because it's in Corsair's interest for people to use their ecosystem.
Oh, the Stream Deck. Right, okay, yeah. I assumed it meant it would appear as an Elgato Lite to Elgato stuff.
Oh, no.
Because, yeah, that's kind of how it appeared.
Yeah.
Said, but no. It's, just
but,
compatible with the Stream Deck.
Yeah.
Which makes
I
101% sense.
Yes, yeah, that won't be compatible with iQ then. Yeah, because the Stream Deck is by definition supposed to work with everything. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I assumed they meant it would like appear in iQ and all of that stuff as well.
Yeah.
Still, that would be kind of natty though. And I guess for a sort of semi-pro setup that works quite well as well. If you're doing something where there is like a production team, obviously because of that you can just have a Stream Deck and you can have all of your light presets set on there.
Yeah.
You can have your light set up and you can just bash through them in different scenes and stuff.
Oh, that's so loud, man. It's not. There's a fly buzzing around at the same time.
Oh, it's bright.
It's just surprisingly bright at 15%. Oh, that's disappointingly loud.
That's why you put a resistor
Yeah,
on
this is why we were doing that. Yeah.
As far as we could tell, it was just dumb 12 volts all the time.
Yeah. How much is that going to bother me? Because see, the thing is that, as I say, I'm going to turn them off when I'm not streaming. And like while I'm streaming, I'm playing the game and going ba 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 into the microphone, so I don't mind extra noise during that anyway. So yeah, it's just a matter of just ba yeah. Are we going to mod these fans? I mean, it's not hard to. The resistor mods we did on these ones worked a treat. We did, I can't remember the calculations, but we did 3 times 330 ohms on this one and 3 times 220 ohms on this one. Both of them were fine. So...
What size did we actually want? What were these?
These
are 80s, aren't they?
I see. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, these are 80 by 10 by 12.
Yeah. Oh, you're looking at fans again. Yeah. I mean, I think these fans will work just fine.
Yeah.
Reasons why you consider the new fluid bearing fans. It's not bearing noise. It's just airflow noise. Fancy bearings are largely marketing guff. 99% of the noise that your fans make is airflow noise, not the bearing. If you can hear the bearing of your fan, then the bearing is goosed, basically. So yeah, just like fancy fans are not worth the money. It's the airflow noise that is the problem. Up to a point, obviously. Expensive fans will have clever blades that produce less airflow noise, but the bearing itself is nonsense. As long as you're not using some poxy sleeve bearing from the 1990s, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, they would last longer, I would give you that, especially if, like, remember the days of dustproof fans? Dustproof fans were bulletproof, man. They never failed because they had sealed bearings.
Yeah, but so do all of the Noctua fans. So do, as far as I know, the Arctic fans.
Oh, that's fair, yeah.
Yeah, certainly the Noctua fans, SSO2 or whatever it is, they're all sealed.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, the only thing I was looking for is if you could get an 80 by 80 by 10 24 volt fan.
Oh, you know, these were available in what was it was listed as 2 times 24 volts. I don't know what that means. Or 2 times 12 volts, which I assume just meant it was a 24 volt fan. And now you say it, I should have bought the 24 volt ones for this exact reason.
But also,
that probably would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just seeing if they existed, and yes, they do, and they're about £6 each. So if we
Yeah.
ever need to do this for a third time,
Yeah.
there will possibly be the memory of 24-volt fans available in this size, and we'll try and remember to actually get 24-volt ones.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna lob the inline resistors back in, I think.
I mean, that makes sense to me. I don't know why you wouldn't, really.
What, to put the resistors in line?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's mainly just I wanted to put in something that wasn't jank. But then on the other hand, this jank has been completely fine. This has failed because the bearings died, not because the jank inline resistors died. So, yeah.
And also because we actually put it in the path of the airflow.
Probably didn't even need...
It also just meant that there was basically zero chance.
Yeah, although I'm probably not going to bother doing that this time. I don't think they were getting hot. I think we did that just because we could.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think because we can, kind of thing, is an entirely valid reason.
Yeah. All right, let's do it. I'm going to get the soldering on. Oop. I must fix the pine sills so I don't have to move the Aixon every time we want to solder.
What's even wrong with them?
Don't know. They both have broken boards, and I think, unless I think of something else, actually, we should make that. Oh, you're not here next week, are you?
No.
Oh, I might just do that next week because that's probably going to be a good solo stream for me anyway. Is trying to fix the pine sills, because that's going to be that's going to be a lot of me looking through a microscope and you sitting to one side going, you know. So.
Yes, you broke it.
I'm wondering whether to put slightly less resistance on these fans because they're 60mm. We'll have to test it out. Right, that plugs in there. Oh, my knees. They became a year older. All right, there is a soldering iron. Solder is what else I need. Cool.
Elevator noises.
I see. Space filler noises. All right.
I am
Hello, Si.
filling space. Is Si happy?
That's a very straightforward question, I suppose. Yes. What do we think about LTT these days? I don't hate LTT. You just got to take them with a pinch of salt, but then you kind of do with everyone. Like one of the things that I put on the discussion points today for if we need to use them was I was a little bit, well, I wouldn't say that I'm miffed. It's just Gamers Nexus reviewed the new Noctua cooler, and it did not escape my notice that they really let them off the hook on the price, in my opinion, to a hysterical amount, where they were just like, well, it's just expensive, okay? You can buy it if you want. And it's like, no, it's not just expensive, it's unreasonably expensive. Well, it is expensive in a way that does not make economic sense for anyone. And
it's expensive in a way that is arguably unreasonable.
Yeah, see,
just because
I didn't use the term unreasonable. Okay, hang on a sec, let's back up. So the new Noctua NHD 15 G2? G2 is £120 or $150, and its cooling performance in best case scenarios is up to 4 degrees cooler than a Thermalright Silent Assassin, which is £30 or $40. So a Thermalright cooler that is a third of the price is only 4 degrees hotter in worst case scenario. So basically the Noctua is ridiculously overpriced, diminishing returns. Yeah, and like I'm referring to GN at the moment. I'm going to come back around to LTT in a moment, but bear with me. I'm just saying this just because it was a thing that I was thinking about. Where was I? Yeah, so really expensive. Now, the reason why it's expensive is because it's incredibly over-engineered. When you do a lot of over-engineering, you end up with an expensive product. So I don't think it's unreasonably expensive. It's expensive because it's very over-engineered. However, all that over-engineering is not worth anything because it's 4 degrees cooler in absolute best case scenario for the Noctua. So all of the over-engineering they've done, all of the expense they've put into the product hasn't actually yielded a useful result that justifies the price tag in any meaningful way. And Gamers Nexus, while normally if this were a graphics card, they would be rinsing it. They would be calling it a waste of sand and all the rest of it. Whereas for this one, they were just like, hey, it's expensive, but it's up to you if you buy it or not.
Only if it was an AMD GPU or an Intel CPU.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So the point is that, Gamers Nexus, which is supposed to be the Trust Us Bro brand, yeah, you should take them with a pinch of salt as well. LTT, yeah, there's a lot of stuff they get right, a lot of stuff they get wrong. You've got to take them with a pinch of salt. On the whole, I like LTT, but you've got to take them with a pinch of salt. And and to an extent, that brings us into another talking point with that brings us into another talking point where LTT recently did that big old video on the ARM-based laptops, the new Qualcomm Snapdragon X laptops. LTT did.
Oh.
And I watched that video and I was like, wow, these laptops are at market. I had no idea that there was Windows on ARM laptops that were ready for consumers.
Well, they're not ready for consumers.
Consumer products exist.
Consumer products exist.
Consumer products exist, and LTT were singing their praises. And sure, they were saying how they're not as fast as Qualcomm said they would be, but they're still pretty damn impressive, and they ran loads of games that they threw at them, which was supposedly a weak point. However, also though, LTT did gloss over the fact of this seems to be a splash rather than a wave of ARM coming, because they've got a bunch of consumer laptops that are available that are ready to go, but also like none of the dev stuff is there, and there's loads of drama and questions surrounding the development support and long-term support, and whether this is going to just die like all of Microsoft's other Windows on ARM attempts. So, and again, it seems like LTT just kind of didn't address any of that. So, yeah, this is the thing, is you've got to take everyone with a pinch of salt, basically. I like LTT and I like Gamers Nexus, but I wouldn't rely on any single one of them as my source of information. That's basically where I was going with all of that.
Yeah, because I was going to say, everything I've seen from other places that weren't LTT were the chips functionally don't work unless you're running ARM compiled programs.
I mean, LTT, they did a 4-hour-long stream where they said, we'll run any game you ask us to.
Yeah.
And they were going through game after game, and they were going, this works, this doesn't work, this works.
Yeah.
And they had a pretty good success rate.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Stuff was working,
obviously
man.
Saying it varies so massively outlet to outlet, which is why I was saying, obviously, you can't rely on a single source.
Yeah.
And it's just a case of, what I had seen from other places was it just functionally didn't work as a non-ARM device.
Yeah.
The emulation just didn't function. And as far as I'm aware, none of the Adobe stuff works unless it's the special ARM compiled versions.
Yeah. Although
which
that
is
much
kind of
a
bit of a bummer.
Although if they've got an ARM version available, then that's kind of a non-issue.
I don't know what they have ARM versions of.
Yeah.
Yet. I don't think they've got an ARM version of Premiere. So you can't do video editing on it. I think they've got Lightroom.
Yeah.
but like I don't know, and obviously the situation can change so quickly. That what you knew last week is not necessarily what the case is this week, because effectively all it needs is a software update.
That beard had some ray tracing. Oh, did I lean across too much? Sorry.
Zoom, enhance. Oh, it's hair.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing is, TLDR, I like Linus Tech Tips. I don't watch every single one of their videos. I watch the ones that have a title that appeals to me, where it looks like they're doing something interesting. Wow, this is a really heavy board. I'm going up to 400 degrees. This is where I need the bigger handled soldering iron.
I was watching someone repair a GPU the other day, and they had a soldering iron with a head on it that was like 25 mil across. It was just a giant wedge, and I was just like, "Ah, yes, brr."
Yeah, yeah. So last weekend we had. So I've got the Aixon T3B here with the T210 handle, and Sai had a T3A with the whatever the bigger handle is, and Sai seemed to have a tip that was, near as damn it the same kind of sizes as this, but just with more thermal mass, which I think I'm just like, I think that would have been the preferred option, just because of the extra thermal mass. This one can brute force it because you've still got 90 watts here, but yeah, that extra thermal mass looked very cozy. Oh, I'd better take a picture of this because the labelling on these wires is pretty garbo. I've got a red wire going to WY+. I've got a red wire going to R-, and I've got a black wire going to RGB+, so yeah.
This is somewhat annoying. Gamers Nexus have released a mega chart of a lot of their coolers all together. The problem is the chart is being released as an image.
Oh.
And the image is like 800 pixels by 600 pixels.
Oh, that's not a lot of good then, is it? Yeah.
And I'm just like, what? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Why is this such a low resolution image?
Yeah. Why is this not a HTML?
Also, why is it not just, effectively an SVG or equivalent? Something that I can actually zoom and enhance.
Right. Going through the thing.
But yeah, the other problem is, as well as they haven't updated it with the D15 GT, which is unfortunate, because I thought in the review they said they had updated it with the mega chart with the GT.
You'd imagine they would, because that's like really easy to do.
But because it's a picture, they now have to effectively re-render a picture.
Yes.
Instead of it just being a chart.
Ooh, there we go.
But yeah, it also doesn't have the Liquid 3s of 3 on here, or the Deep Cool LT720.
Oh, that's surprisingly out of date.
Which is the one you'd care about. Yeah. Just for kind of
right.
Yeah, so the performance on it.
Okay, right. So I'm going to cut the red wire and I'm going to stick some inline resistors. I will do them as they were. Actually, if I peel that back, I could get that resistor right on the fan actually, which would be kind of neat. And then I wouldn't have to cut the fan wire, I say, having just pulled it apart. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'll do a pro job. I say, bodging this light mercilessly. All right, put that to one side. Whoops, probably should have unplugged that before I started pulling it apart.
Was the power still connected?
Yeah, like the switch was off, but yeah. G2 has a very flat surface. Yeah, that's the thing about, so yeah, coming back to the Noctua.
Doesn't depend on which one you buy.
Yeah, coming back to the Noctua, it is like, engineering-wise, it's incredible, The new heatsink design, the new fan design, the new cold plate, it's brilliant. But that is also like hilariously expensive to make. So they've just ended up making a hilariously expensive cooler. Or, well, I assume that it's expensive anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm being charitable by assuming that they're not just jacking up the price of their products. And like, that's a very, very charitable read of it, because this is Noctua. And certainly with a lot of their other products, you cannot possibly tell me that their products are worth their price tag. Alright, so let's just peel. I may as well just ditch that altogether. I don't really care about the stickers, so. Right, sneak under there. Yeah. Whoop.
Oh dear. Yes. Random question for you. How much is reasonable for a new 4090? The Gigabyte Gaming OC has been offered to me for a price. Based on what I know of like supply and stuff, the expectation is that new prices for brand new 4090s is going to be high because the supply is intentionally constrained.
Yeah.
And I would be expecting that a new 4090 is going to be like 1600 minimum. Probably more like 1800.
Yeah, that's the kind of price tag that I would.
One.
Yeah, that's the kind of price tag that I would expect to see.
Yeah. But
like the RRP on them is 1600, isn't it? So
yeah,
yeah,
but obviously
even getting as low as 1600 would be pretty decent.
But it's also just a fact of obviously we are 5 months at most away from the replacement card coming out for a generation that is, 16, 17 months old.
Yeah.
So obviously you would have expected the price to have drifted slightly below MSRP.
Yeah. This does not want to take solder.
So yeah.
But I'm just going to move the phone so it's not being noisy.
But yeah, if you're willing to go pre-owned, you can get pre-owned working ones for like 1200. So obviously depends on what your tolerance is on buying something pre-owned that's a, £1,600 graphics card, effectively, because you can get some pre-owned ones for 1200, 1300. I enjoy the fact that eBuyer are trying to sell a faulty, non-working 4090 for £1,236. What?
Hoping that someone's going to try and fix it, I assume.
Yeah. They haven't even provided any information as to, like, what's wrong with it.
No, I mean, you wouldn't on repair stuff.
No, but they haven't said, like, oh, it's listed as faulty because we dropped it off a pallet.
Yeah.
Or it's listed as faulty because it's a customer return.
Yeah, I suppose you could at least say does not power on or something like that. But yeah, no one lists what's actually wrong because if they knew what was wrong with it, they'd probably get it fixed. So either they don't know what's wrong with it, so it could be anything, or they do know what's wrong with it and they know that it's a nightmare to fix, so they're not going to say that because that will scare off any potential buyers. Because the kind of people who would consider buying a broken graphics card, they're looking for something which they think might be an easy win.
Yeah.
There we go, that's better. Right, I've kind of... I'm doing a bit of a hack job on this. No, it's okay, it's still good, it's still good.
I do enjoy how much of a brick the Aorus Master 4080 is.
Oh yeah, that one, that's the one that I ordered in and had to send back. That one was illegally big.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
It's basically 1.5 times the height of the PCIe bracket.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and it's like 5 slots wide or something. It's ridiculous.
I'm going to be really rude and put solder onto the iron and then apply.
Do you think you could mount a 3080 Ti PCB to a 3090 heatsink? Like the Founders Edition 3080 Ti to a Founders Edition 3090 heatsink?
I've no idea. Why do you ask? Have you spotted a heatsink or something?
Only because someone was selling a 3090 Founders Edition heatsink on its own.
Yeah.
And I was just like...
How much is it?
Currently, £50.
Yeah. Because that would be interesting, because obviously, like, I've got, as you know, I have a 3080 Ti, and the Achilles heel of that 3080 Ti Founders Edition is the cooler just isn't big enough.
Yeah.
It needs a bigger cooler. It has to run loud and hot to sustain itself.
I will be back in a minute.
No problem. I gotta take this.
Wow, I don't know.
Yep. All right. Depends on the board layout. Have to check the caps plate. Yeah, because that's the thing is they're both Founders Edition, but also they're both completely different cards. So it's entirely possible that they just have completely different layouts. All right, that's in place. That's fine. It's kind of squidging the rubber washer down more than I want it to, but that's not rattly and that's not going to fall out. I'd say that's fine. I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna send it. Let's go all the way around there. And it was negative on that bit. That will do. That will do. Okay. That's also not me calling. Yeah. Very good. Why not cut the red wire shorter? I was going to do that, but then I'd have to get up and go and get the snippers again. And then I'd have to shorten it, and I'm being lazy. That's the genuine reason there. I'm just being lazy. Saw a video about new scam doing the rounds. 4090 heatsink on a 3080 and screening it to read. Yeah, kind of not surprising. Like, you know, graphics card scams are not a new phenomenon. So, yeah, it kind of be that way. All right.
I've never overly followed the graphics card scams, just because any of the scams, because all of the places they're listing them, you just go to the website that you bought it from and go, this was a scam.
Yeah.
And you get your money back, and the seller gets nothing.
Yeah, pretty much. I think you have to put yourself in a extremely vulnerable position to actually get scammed.
Oh, you snapped the tip off.
Yes.
I couldn't work out why it was such a different length.
Yes. Those side cutters are very weird when you use them now. He's just going to put the mic on and his phone's just gone again. Muffled from stage right. What? Right, I'm going to tack on these wires again. God, I can see why I did a bit of a poor job on the soldering on these last time. This is a really heavy circuit board because it's cooling the LEDs. Right, feed that down. I basically just need to tack these on, and then I'm going to do a quick test to see how that fan sounds. I need to make sure the fan actually spins because I'm putting the same amount of resistance on it on a 60mm fan as I did for an 80mm fan, and it might be a bit aggressive, but we'll see. All right, that's on. Okay. Do more flux. Yeah, probably. It's fine. Oh, I'm missing a wire here. There it is. That red one goes to there. And let's just reorder these. Red. Oh, these are so fiddly to put back on. I'll just do it here while holding it up. Any predictions on when NVMe storage will be going down in price? I don't know. It depends on what NAND prices are doing. Because it's high at the moment because NAND prices went up, which was a prediction that a lot of people made, and I wish I'd listened to them. We were told this was going to happen, and I was just like, if it happens, it happens. And then it happened, and I said, wow, I wish I'd bought like 10 or 20 SSDs before Christmas now. But such is, at the end of the day, you know, I'm passing that cost on to the consumer anyway, so I'm not going to eat that cost. I'm just going to say to the customer, okay, it costs this much now. My customers are paying, my prices haven't changed, it's just people are getting 500 gigs instead of a terabyte again. You know, which kind of sucks. I wish I could do better than that, but that's how much it costs. Get on. There we go. Caradog gets back from the phone. He's like, I'm going to need a drink.
I see. I don't know if the intention is one shots it from the bottle or not.
I think it's supposed to be I think it's supposed to be a tipple. So like,
However,
I don't think you take it as a single shot, but like you should have it reasonably quickly, you know.
However, I am in fact going to obtain drinking vessels, potentially even clean ones.
Yes, there are clean ones as a special treat. There we go.
Why have people been doing your washing up for you?
I've been doing my washing up. How dare you?
I dare regularly.
Right, I'm going to check that works. I'm going to put one screw in just to stop it falling apart.
The thing that surprises me about SSDs is that we haven't seen any real movement in the large capacities, you know, like 8 terabytes in consumer space.
All right. Bang. Okay, right.
Is the fan actually moving?
The fan is moving, yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's pretty well silent. It's good?
I haven't consumed it. I just sniffed it and was just like,
Oh, I see. So, friendly reminder to everyone that Caradog's, whoops, I just flashbanged everyone. Caradog's reaction to very strong things is to start burping uncontrollably, was it?
For really hot things, I get hiccups.
Oh, hiccups, that's it.
Yeah, it was hiccups for stuff that's really...
Oh, it was spicy though, the throat cutter, wasn't it?
It was because it was spicy. It wasn't the alcohol content.
Yeah. This isn't supposed to be. This is a warm you up in the evening drink, not a blow your head off drink. This is for a celebratory thing where we go kampai, you know. And these are courtesy of Katrina, by the way, who was also visiting.
What?
Well, kampai, but that would be Japanese, so you wouldn't say. But it's supposed, you know, whatever the German equivalent of kampai is.
That's fine. I understood that as 2 words.
I see. Oh, a camp I see.
No.
You know what? I'm going to stop guessing before I make a bigger fool of myself. So, yes. Right, okay, hang on a sec. Let me... Right, this is functioning. I'm going to whack this up to full brightness and start taking apart the next one and see how hot this gets. God. As soon as I turn that up to full, I could feel the heat on my hand. Yeah, okay, that belts out a lot more than I thought at full tilt.
Yeah, what is it? We worked out it was 50 watts, didn't we?
Yeah, something like that. Okay, I tell you what, I'm going to back that off to 75. Well, no, I should test on worst case scenario, shouldn't I? Yeah, let's test on worst case scenario.
I'm also going to do a science.
Are you looking for the thermal camera?
Yes.
It's on the front counter.
Because I suddenly thought, we have the equipment for this.
Yes.
We have the technology.
All right, I'm going to put that there.
Is it? Oh, it is. It's got a little baggie and everything.
Yeah. I carry it around in its protective case.
There's also a little baggie for the thermal camera.
It's got a slip-on for your protection. I mean, its protection. I mean, to protect it. I mean, so that's the thermal camera.
I want one of these. Way more than I have any use.
Well, I need to check my inbox. In a shock to no one, but there was another company that was threatening to send me another thermal camera, one of the handheld gun style ones. So I will have a spare thermal camera at some point soon. TM. All right.
Please allow camera permissions.
Yeah, because it can do hybrid. It can't do hybrid imagery, but it can show your camera as a side-by-side.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, no, I was just like, then yes, ask me for the permission.
Oh, I see,
what?
Yes.
It just wasn't doing what it inferred it was going to do. But I think that's because it's not actually connecting properly.
Ooh. Ooh, lad. Ooh, lad. Ooh, that is, that's a drink. It's 60% for reference. This is actually what we're drinking. 60% volume. It is Graubenführer, which I don't know what that means. It's like a miner's drink, or I think, or something like that. I'm going to scroll the chat down again. Katrina is here, yes. You could say Kampai, that's fair. You can drink from the bottle. I don't know why I didn't, to be honest. I should have. But also I'm feeling very scatterbrained at the moment.
Oh, I see, yes.
Pitfire, I see.
You can put a little picture-in-picture.
Yeah, however, they're not aligned enough for it to be useful unless you're looking at a building over there, kind of thing.
Yeah, but it would require the USB to be here.
Yeah,
effectively.
Because then, yeah.
Yeah. Very well.
Seems like Fleer add a huge premium on their products where the competitors do the same product for 10% of the cost. Yeah, Fleer are like the Fluke of thermal cameras. And yeah, they're at this point, as good as their products are, the Chinese have caught up with them and offer something that is just as good for significantly less. Like, fun fact, a while back, someone put a really snotty comment on my Infrared P2 Pro review that said words to the effect of shilling junk as usual. You should get this camera instead. And they accused me of shilling a bad product and said, you should get the Fleer whatever model number they listed. And so I looked that one up and I was like, this costs more and has worse specs. So, no. Why would I? This is, you're asking me to pay more for a lesser product. How am I the one shilling here? I'm advertising a product that has superior specifications and costs less. That sounds like a win to me, So yeah.
Oh, I like that. I just found the scale mode, so it will give you a temperature scale, which is. So the colours actually make a semblance of sense.
Just going to check if this light is exploding.
I can tell you that it's approximately 50 Celsius.
Yeah, that sounds believable. That's
yes,
because that's getting to the point where it's just about uncomfortable to hold my hand up against the LEDs, and at the hot points, yeah.
Parts of the circuit board are down at 20 Celsius, where other parts are up at 60.
Oh. Let's see if we can get this on camera. Hold on. Stand by, everyone. I'm about to flashbang you. So if you're sitting in the dark, then yeah. Well, I'm then going to hold your phone over the top of it. So
Yeah, I was just bringing that up because we'll want to tweak it to get the camera's
yes.
screen to show up as well.
Here we go, everyone. Explode! Die! Right, okay, let's see.
You take that and hold that. I will...
Right. Let's see, what am I looking at here? Okay. Oh yeah, look at, the deltas. Oh, okay, so if we look at where the temperature differences are, so the blue, green to red is hot, blue is cold. So the blue rings, these are the RGB LEDs, which are off, and they're on a separate PCB, so they're staying very cold. There's not a lot of thermal transmission between them, although there's a bit of bleed through down here. Then obviously the red dots are the core of each LED, the actual chip, so those are going up in flames. And then there's a huge drop off into the actual PCB itself. So yeah, that's why there's a reasonable delta. The circuit board I can hold my finger to, but the actual chips themselves are uncomfortable to touch. So yeah. That's twinkling a lot. I think we might have a... I'm not sure how happy the camera is with the amount of light we're belting into it at the moment, so I'm going to move that away.
But yeah, that's very interesting.
Oh. So you said about 50 degrees, so we'll...
68.
68.
Yeah, that's what it was going up to there.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, we'll leave that for a bit longer, and we'll see if the heat soak gets it. If we come back and find that the temperature is basically the same, so they're not getting any hotter, then that means that the cooling is doing its job well enough. So yeah. Right, I now can't read the chat because I've just got dots in all of my vision, so, you know, that's cool. Squint. Whew. Ay, ay, ya.
But it's very interesting separately as a separate point.
Kampai.
There, just how clearly it shows up where the processor is under the keyboard. Even on a laptop that's in sleep.
Yeah. Very well.
That's the thing for me that I was just kind of like, oh.
Yeah.
Wild. But this is why I want a thermal camera. Not for anything useful.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the one that is kind of my favourite part about reviewing thermal cameras. I didn't get much of it from my FLIR because my old FLIR was an old model and not very good. But this one was really cool, and when I was reviewing it, I had a lot of fun just walking around pointing it at stuff going, ha, cool. Like in the original review, there's footage of me pointing it at the kitchen sink as I turn on the hot tap.
Oh yeah.
And it just looks like lava just splashing out of the tap. It's really cool, you know, and it's just, yeah. They're just a bit too expensive to have as a toy, unless you've got a lot of money to spend, but yeah, they're kind of cool.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to start taking apart this one.
I do quite enjoy that it's possible to unlock your phone.
Wash it down with a sausage. That's a good idea.
Unlock the laptop by using the fingerprint reader on the phone. Which obviously effectively means that the laptop now doesn't need the fingerprint reader and so on. So it's very good for devices where you're trying to screw out every single penny.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because it now means that it has biometric authentication without actually having a biometric reader.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right.
What is the cheapest viable thermal camera? I don't know.
Cheapest viable? Like, last time I checked, the P2 Pro is still the best bang for buck. And I don't say that just because I reviewed it and that I was... full disclosure, I did not pay for this one. Infrared sent me this free sample. However, it was very good, and the price seems to be very competitive. Unity's equivalent of it is very price competitive. I think I think Unity and Infrared are trading blows for pricing.
That is the macro lens. Never mind.
Oh yeah,
I was about to say.
It is not 50 pounds.
Excuse me.
It is not £52.
£60.
No. Yeah.
But no. Apparently the Infrared P2 is approximately 200 to 240.
Yes. I think the difference between the P2 and the P2 Pro is just whether it comes with the macro lens or not. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
You might want to check that. I think the Pro basically just means that it comes with the macro lens. And if you're doing electronics repair, the macro lens isn't mandatory, but it's really well worth having. If you're dropping £200 into a thermal camera,
190,
you may as well drop 240 and get the macro lens with it.
Oh, there appears that there might be a newer version, the T3.
Is that from Infrared?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So I have a ganders it there.
Yeah.
But yes, the Infrared Thermal Imager P2 Pro, Industrial PCB Floor Heating Seek Detection Night Vision GoPro P2 Thermal Camera for Phone.
I see.
Yes, 190 off of AliExpress.
Sorry, for which one?
Just the P2.
Yeah, for the P2, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't see any that appear to include the macro lens
Yeah.
at the moment.
There's not enough heat here for the macro lens to actually do its work, and I don't really want to keep pointing it at that bright light because the thermal cameras will get upset if, like, do not point the thermal camera at the sun. Ask me how I know. So yeah.
Oh, you can get it with a lightning connector as well. That's good.
Yeah, that's fair. That makes
So
sense.
there's an iOS version as well. That's good.
Someone said, yeah, Minnie said, when it comes to thermal cameras, you want decent resolution. P2 Pro is 256 by 192, and I wouldn't go under that. I agree. Don't go for less than that. However, if you want higher than that, you're going to pay substantially more.
Yeah.
We're talking prosumer devices here. I don't want to say these are consumer devices because this isn't a toy. This is designed for professionals fixing stuff. However, it's not professional because professional ones cost thousands, you know. So I don't know how exactly I would class this product, but the kind of stuff we're looking at here that costs $200 to $300, you're looking at 256 by 192. That's the sensor resolution you're going to get at this price point. If someone's offering a higher resolution than that at the same price point, you found a bargain. Typically your thermal cam will be limited to FPS. No, the new sensors in the P2 Pro, and so when the P2 Pro came out, it was basically new sensors had hit the market. This 256 by 192 sensor that all of the current ones use can do 25 FPS. That's kind of why it's a big deal, and that was the massive selling point of the P2 Pro and all of the Unity's equivalent. The 256 by 192 sensor, it can do 25 FPS, which means you actually get something that's pretty darn smooth as well. And like, you don't need big FPS, but it's really nice to have.
Certainly going above 10 is necessary,
Exactly.
I would say.
Yeah, I mean, let me just quickly fire up the camera again, just so I can show people what that frame rate looks like. Like, a really good comparison would be to compare it versus my old FLIR, but I can't be bothered to get that out. However, could you just go to bench cam again for me?
There we go.
So, yeah, that's the kind of frame rate that we're getting here. As you can see, it stutters now and then. That's when it's doing a calibration. And like every 10, there we go, there's another one. It's like every 10 seconds or so it does that. However, apart from that, as you can see, it's pretty dang smooth. Yeah. So
yeah, to go the next resolution up, which appears to be
look at how bad my circulation is. I get cold. It was really funny actually. About the time when we went to visit Size Shop, I'd injured my finger. It was my left ring finger. I'd put a big old gash across it. There's actually a scar there. And when I was looking at it under the thermal camera, you could vividly see all of the arteries in my hand where it was pumping blood up to that injured finger. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get the idea.
But yeah.
Oh, and also just handprint left on table.
Which is always fun.
Yeah, just kind of cool. Everything leaves a signature, everyone. Do that on a pin pad after someone's walked into a building.
You'd have to be pretty damn close.
Yeah, but if you were queuing up behind them or something, or like a cash point or something like that, I don't know.
Yeah. To get the next resolution up,
What
which
is the
appears
next?
to be 384 by 288.
Okay, that's a 50% increase, isn't it? Yeah.
You appear to be looking at about £600.
That's not horrendous. That's still 3 figures, not 4 figures.
Yeah.
But also that's like 3 times the price. So yeah.
Yeah.
For a 50% increase in resolution, you're looking at 3 times the cost. So yeah, it depends on your application there.
Yeah.
Personally, yeah. Obviously, I'll never say no to more resolution. However, these 256 by 192 sensors are plenty accurate.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to desolder these wires. I'm trying to decide whether to bust out a. I'm trying to decide whether to bust out a drink, a cider, because we've got that Thatcher's lemon in the fridge.
Yeah.
However, like, man, that the fire pit is. I'm feeling the fire pit, man. That's if I need to drink something, or that is going to give me a headache.
Yeah. If you don't mind going for some unknown brand camera, you can get a 256 by 192 25 hertz camera from CS Kunshi for 107 plus tax.
107 plus tax.
Yeah.
It'd be really fun to buy one of those and see what you get.
Yeah.
Because it's probably got the same sensor in it.
Yeah.
It's just the software will be garbage. But like, if it shows you the view, like, but that's the thing is, I don't really use the software. I don't use all of the measurements and the points of accuracy and the scales and stuff. I just point it and see which bit looks hot. So.
Oh wow, there's one here that's offering the same resolution, I think, for 82 plus tax.
Really, I don't have the money to spare for that, but I would love to buy one of those and just see if it's any good. That would be really interesting to know when reviewing another thermal camera.
Oh wait, no, it's sorry, for the same resolution, it's 100 plus tax.
Still, that's half the price of the P2 Pro.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's still substantial.
But that's quite interesting.
Speaking of which, do you want to fire that up again and we'll just check this light again? Because I think that's had time to heat soak now. Neth, Caramel. Hello, Muerto. How are ye?
Bob, Dave.
Yeah, I'll let you sort it out. Bloody hell, that fire pit is serious stuff. That looks a lot more substantial than when we measured it last.
56, 57 high.
Really, on the hotspot?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's still fine.
There we go. Moving it a bit closer, 61.
Yeah, it's heat soaking, but the chips aren't actually getting hotter, just the PCB is getting hotter.
There you go. You can waggle that around if you wish.
That is the latest view. So there's more heat soak on everything. Everything is getting brighter, but the actual chips don't seem to be getting meaningfully hotter. So yeah, like over a really long period of time, that would
yeah, your minimum temperature has gone up by like 0.5 apparently.
Yeah. And this is at 100%, so this is worst case scenario. In reality, I'm going to run these at 20%. So
it's impressive the detail this maintains at reasonable range. 'Cause, yeah, you could walk around by this. Because like it's showing the separation in the tiles.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Wild. But yes, cider time.
Yes, Katrine says you usually drink it after a meal as a digestive. So yeah, Yeah, I didn't do that. I'm sorry. There's 2 of them left, and I will save these for a special occasion. However, for now, Caradog was just like, haha, here is the funny drink. So, and yeah, bloody hell, these things don't mess around, and I'm a lightweight. Right, I am reading through the chat. There are phones with built-in thermal cameras, but they make the phone quite huge. The other, I've often, when I was looking for a thermal camera, a lot of people were saying, hey, you should get one of the cat phones, as in Caterpillar cat phones, and because they've got built-in thermal cams. I was like, that seems like a neat idea, have a standalone thing. But the problem with buying one of those is you're now married to that phone, no matter how old and decrepit it gets. Whereas the P2 Pro, when my phone gets old and tired, I'll just plug this into my next phone. And this is one of the interesting things. I can't remember what brand it is that emailed me, but I was in talks with another brand for their new thermal camera, which was one of the handheld standalone jobbies, the gun style ones. And I'm really interested in reviewing one of those and I said to them, I said, in the review, I'm going to pitch it versus a Infrared P2 Pro, and I'm going to do a comparison of the handheld gun style ones versus a plug into your phone one, because I think that would be a very interesting comparison point, and weigh up the pros and cons of both. So the plug into your phone one, it means you have to use your phone for better or for worse. And like, I've got a decent phone, but also it now means that like when I want to use this, I've got to make sure that there's no sensitive information on my phone, and my phone is now tied up while I'm using it, so I can't send and receive calls while it's, you get the point. Whereas, and I've got to plug it in and start up the app, whereas a handheld gun style one, you just turn it on and point it at the thing. But also, you know, like I say, when my phone gets old and decrepit, I'll buy a new phone, and this will still work at lightning speed on the new phone. So there's pros and cons of this, and I think that's kind of interesting. Minnie says, I would recommend a standalone version, but that's your personal preference. So yeah, I'm kind of interested to try them both. So yeah. And yeah, 160 by 120, I think that's what my FLIR was. And the FLIR makes up for it by having the hybrid view. It has a visible light view and thermal view overlaid on top of each other, so you get a highlighted outline of stuff with the thermal view on top, which is FLIR's party trick. And that makes up for the low resolution, because you have a high resolution outline of stuff with a low resolution thermal view. So it does make up for a lot, but so that makes low resolution usable. In lieu of that, you definitely need high resolution. The P2 Pro without the hybrid view would not be usable were it not for the fact that it has the high resolution.
Oh no!
What are you looking at?
Would you like a 32 by 24 pixel thermal imaging camera?
No. No, I would not. That seems so low that I'm not sure how that would be useful. Because when you look, like, for people who don't know, the general application for these thermal cameras is people like me who are repairing circuit boards, which is someone who Infrared are super interested. Like, whenever Infrared have emailed me wanting to promote it, they've said, make a video of you pointing it at a circuit board. That's what we want. We want people to buy this camera and use it to fix circuit boards. Whereas someone like FLIR, they're targeting electricians who are looking for bad grounding, where they've got a power cable that's heating up because there's a bad ground. Or they're targeting builders who are looking for poor insulation spots in a building. You don't need a whole lot of resolution for that. You just need to point it at a window and go, look at this window. It's got cold all around it where it's leaking cold air from outside. So yeah, that's where the lower resolution is less of a problem. But for that resolution, that's just a toy at that point. Drop your phone, crack the screen. Yeah, you kind of got bigger problems if you do that, but you're not wrong. It does mean that your tool is no longer useful. And by your tool, I mean the thermal camera. Caradog just looks at me for a moment there.
Thank you for the unnecessary clarification.
That's what I do. That's what I do. And I'm going to drink this less alcoholic drink because bloody hell, that thing is devastating me.
It looks like the cheapest you can get a 256192 is 100 plus tax.
Yeah.
On Ali.
It'd be interesting. Are any of those available super cheap on Amazon US, Amazon.com? Because I have Amazon.com vouchers because of reasons, so I can buy stuff for free from Amazon.com.
Amazon.com. Amazon.com. Wait.
Let's see. Scrolling down.
That's something completely different.
Yeah. You could just dedicate an old phone to the infrared camera. Yeah, you could. You could. And the only reason why I haven't done that with my old phone, which is a Huawei P20, yeah, Huawei P20, is my Huawei P20 is just weirdly fussy with USB accessories. Otherwise, I would be using that as a dedicated thermal cam phone. I can smell burning plastic, and I'm assuming that that's the thing that I'm touching the soldering iron to, and not this light. Nope, smells of hot LEDs. I say, giving myself a suntan. All right, I'm turning this thing off.
God, the FLIR.
Ow.
Hello. The FLIR USB camera that's 256 by 192 is $280 off of Amazon.
Sorry, say those specs again.
The FLIR one that matches the infrared.
Okay, yeah.
Is 280.
280. That's not awful.
But it's also just like that is a
and that's Amazon as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would actually say that's competitive because AliExpress is going to be cheaper. And also you're getting the FLIR brand with that, which means you also have the hybrid view and just FLIR.
Or you can buy the one that you have for $212.
Oh, never mind. That's exceptionally good bang for buck considering that's the Amazon price. Because like Amazon, I just assume is going to be $50 more expensive than AliExpress.
Sorry, I meant the FLIR that you have. Or you can buy the FLIR that you have for $212.
Oh, what? My old one? Yeah, no, the FLIR one's garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, FLIR one's garbage, man. It's ancient.
But no, there don't appear to be any of those cheap ones on Amazon US.
That's fair, it was worth a try. There was something else I was going to buy on Amazon US when I had some more vouchers, but I can't remember what it was now. No, it's gone out my brain. Right, this fan. Yep, the rotor rocks hideously. Can I show that on camera? Yeah, so like you can see that the rotor rocks when I tap my fingers on it, and like a lot of fans will have that amount of movement in it, but I can feel the feedback is very noticeable. It on a brand new fan that will squish. You'll feel like a squish as if you're against the bearings. On this one, it taps. It's solid. It goes dink, 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 dink. Whereas on a brand new fan, well, this one has no movement in it at all. So yeah, that kind of settles that. There's literally no movement in that at all. So that's how you can confirm if a fan is shot or not without having to spin it up. If you can feel the rotor just rocking back and forth, the bearings are crap. So yeah. Right, there is the resistors. So I'm going to hotwire this fan. Jesus wept. Why did I do that? Why did I do that on an empty stomach? It was a terrible idea. I say, drinking more cider. For reference, the cider today is Thatcher's Cloudy Lemon. Zingy and refreshing. Made with real lemons as well, which is nice. It's not lemon flavouring, it's actually got real lemon in it.
Lemon pledge.
This is really nice, actually. I quite like it.
Oh, all of my AliExpress recommendations are going to be filled with endoscopes now.
I've got a new, you already know this, but I'll say it for the sake of the audience. I have a new Tomlov microscope, which is sitting in the box ready to be unboxed, which is allegedly 4K. So I may have a very tasty microscope upgrade in the works. So I'm kind of interested in that. I already miss cider. Yeah. Like Katrina was over to visit. I met Katrina and the partner, and we had a wonderful time. And there were many good ciders had. And I'm very sad that you're back in Germany with no good ciders. I was very proud that you were impressed by our country's cider. Okay, right. I was working on this fan. I've mentioned sausages 3 times now. I've seen one of them, and I will go and get a sausage in a minute. I'm going to solder this fan, and then I'll eat a sausage. I don't mean that facetiously. We have sausages, and I will eat one.
I always get suspicious when products are listed as being like traceless.
Traceless?
I was like, this tape will leave no traces, and I'm like, what are you using the tape for?
I mean, obviously they mean it leaves no residue, but yeah, saying that something is traceless is a kind of a loaded term, isn't it?
It's like, what are you planning on doing?
Yeah.
Hello, Graham.
There's a boomer joke about silence being golden and duct tape being silver in here somewhere, but you've all heard it before.
Yeah.
Right, hang on a sec. I'm going to scan through the chat. Family sign. Blah, 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 blah. Does Germany not do cider? They do have cider, but they don't have like craft cider. They just have like generic cider.
It's also more like a white wine.
I need Katrina to confirm that because I can't remember that bit. But like, as you guys have seen from this show, like we get loads of different ciders that we drink on this show, and all of them have a distinct. It's all cider, but all of them are distinctly different, and that's why we say all these pretentious. This is very bright, and oh, that's very summery, and this is very tangy, and this is very floral. Like, we're not being pretentious. These ciders have different flavors, and it's really rad that we actually have that selection available to us because it's not common, apparently. Cider fresh from the tap was the thing. Yeah, but you guys only get it in like bottles and stuff. You can't get it on tap. Let's see. Andreas Salvador. I have a new 13th gen Intel system with a B760M chipset. Starts with reset BIOS, but as soon as I make any changes, it doesn't post anymore. Just turned off with the full screen logo and changed the fan profile. Is it automatically trying to set XMP? You might want to go into BIOS and specifically set XMP to disabled and then fiddle around with it. Now, XMP is good. You want that to be turned on. But if you're having trouble, actually disable XMP. Don't put it on automatic or anything like that. Disable it and see if your problems go away. If your problems go away after disabling XMP, you have a memory training problem. And then you can start going into diagnosing XMP issues. That's how I'd approach that problem.
Also, the other thing is with that is if you have weird issues and so on, if you can do a BIOS update on it, BIOS flashback on it, do that. If they're still there, and given the age of it, it's probably reasonably new. Sounds like it might be a faulty motherboard. Get it replaced before your time expires.
Yeah, that's a good shout actually, because I have recently had a faulty new motherboard that kind of sort of works, but also just didn't really. You know, you would imagine that if the board was faulty, it just wouldn't work at all. But you can have a faulty motherboard that is just intermittent and behaves like this.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you can't get 5600 to work on 12 gen, that's just broken.
Yeah. Turner Gaming says, would the fan blades come off of the rotor hub if the bearing was to fully fail if you don't replace it? The fan rotor will never come off because they have it'll have some kind of circlip or something in there that's just mechanically holding it on, and there's no world where that will fall off.
But you can have individual blades detach from the hub where the
Yes.
plastic fails.
Yeah, you could have a fan blade snap off, and if a fan blade snaps off of the rotor, the fan is done. You replace the fan because that will
You don't snap the one off on the other side.
I've tried. Yeah, once one fan blade is snapped off, you'll be like, oh, if I snap one off of the other side, that'll rebalance the rotor, right? No. Replace the fan. So I've done that on site at a customer's house before. Long time ago, I was on site at a customer's house and their computer was really dusty. I was like, hey, have you got a Hoover? I'm just going to Hoover this out. And I put the Hoover nozzle a bit too close to the CPU fan and it went clonk and snapped off a blade. And I was like, I snapped off a blade on the other side of the rotor. It was okay. But I was like, shh. This was 15 years ago, in my defense. But I've done that. Ooh. Replace the fan. I would not do that in this day and age. Equal weight is a nope. Yeah. Replace the $1 fan. Get a replacement from Spire. Check RAM compatibility. Yeah, that's worth doing. Check.
But also, if it's just resetting itself,
Yeah.
that's nothing to do with compatibility. That's broken, and you're working out what is broken.
I agree. Knowing if your RAM kit is on the QVL or not is useful. So looking up the qualified vendor list, which is basically a list of RAM kits that have been tested on that motherboard, can be helpful. Because if your RAM kit is on the QVL, you know that there is no legitimate reason why it shouldn't work, other than the board being faulty. If your RAM kit isn't on the QVL, it should still work. It's unreasonable, any RAM should work, but that's just more information to think about while you're diagnosing, is that you have RAM that hasn't actually been tested with that board. And on AMD, that's not uncommon, but on Intel, it's, most mainstream RAM kits are probably on the QVL. So that's interesting to know.
The QVLs, unfortunately, also are just absolute gibberish, though.
That's true. The last QVL we looked at was that Gigabyte one, which I haven't sent back because I'm terrible.
Yeah.
And the QVL for that was pure nonsense.
But also, just like the QVL for a lot of the high-end Z790 boards are just gibberish. Because they're saying, they'll do 10,000 mega transfers and stuff, and it's there's 0.1% of IMCs that will do that.
Yeah.
So you'll have to bin 1,000 CPUs to find a CPU that's good enough.
Yeah.
And even then, your board isn't the apex. It's not good enough.
Yeah.
Go home.
Yeah. Minnie says, what soldering station do you have? I see it's some T210 knockoff. I don't know if it's a knockoff or not. It's an Aixon T3B with the T210 handle. I don't know what qualifies as knockoff here, because this is Aixon, but I don't know if T210 is JBC's handle or something. I don't know the deep lore of all of the soldering iron cartridges. However, this is the Aixon T3B soldering station, which is the one that everyone and their dog currently has and is raving about because it's really cheap and really good. So yeah, T210 is JBC. So yeah, it's a T210 knockoff, but it's a really good knockoff. People I know who are extremely serious use this soldering station and recommended it to me, which is why I use it. So if it's good enough for Muerto, it's good enough for me. So yeah. Graham needs to try and fix the $1 fan, and if he does not succeed, he will say, well, it was only a $1 fan. I don't know if this is an insult or not. I mean, we could... I could try and open this up. The problem is that the bearings on these... yeah, see, look at this. I'd have to destroy... I peeled this back, but I'd have to destroy this plastic. I'd have to drill this out to get to the fan bearing. And then the fan bearing is probably a one-shot wonder, where the fan bearing has had a clip put onto it that you will never, ever, ever be able to remove. So, like, yeah, how the hell are you going to get the rotor off of that? The rotor won't push off. On a lot of laptop fans, you can actually just push the rotor off of the fan if you give it a firm press. But on this, yeah, that's not coming off without destructive means. So just, yeah, there's no planet where that is repairable or serviceable. Ugh.
What?
What have you spotted?
Digital visual analog timer.
Do you mean a clock?
I don't know.
I'm actually going to get a sausage, and then I'll put this fan in here. I'll be right back.
I will return.
Also, I'm just going to close the door because I can hear it banging around out there. The door closed itself. Okay.
Damn kid's making a mess. Yes, digital visual analog timer.
Sausage. This is genuine German sausage. I don't know what type of German sausage it is, but again, Katrina visited and blessed us with German sausage. It was very good. Ah.
Would you like an £11 soldering iron?
No.
But it can have a BC2 tip.
See, the problem there is a non-zero chance that it will actually catch fire, and I'm not even joking. I'm conscious of the fact of some time ago where when our common friend was in business in the next town over.
In the one place.
Yeah. He had bought a cheap hot air station. And it was a cheap hot air station where all of the controls were on the handle as well. So it was completely self-contained handheld hot air gun. And he said the first time he used it, the handle physically melted in his hand on the first use. So yeah, that's the thing. You think, oh, how bad can it be? It can literally just self-destruct when you turn it on and try to use it. So yeah, like, it's really tempting to look at a £10 soldering iron and be like, how bad can it be? Well, it can actually just melt itself in your hand. So yeah, pretty bad. If it's being sold from, well, I was about to say, if it's being sold from a UK store, it's probably something like an Antex or something like that. That there's a common brand where you can get those for like 12 or 15 quid for a tiny little 12-watt soldering iron. That's going to be safe because it's being sold in a UK store. But also, there's also a running thing now of a lot of well-known stores just stocking Chinese junk now because it seems to be okay to stock Chinese rubbish.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Would you like to spend £24 on a soldering iron with tips, with solder, with a silicon sheath, and a fast and a 65-watt charger for £24?
See, it probably works, but again, just that charger, man. In addition, you know, like in addition to having friends who've had tools literally melt in their hand, I have plugged in, you know, those power packs that you get where it just says replacement AC adapter on the back.
Yes.
You know, I've plugged those in and had the flex from the plug go bang and just explode and cover my arm in soot. You know, I plugged one of those in, it's just gone and I've just been like, I don't plug those things in anymore. Because that time it just went bang and covered my arm in soot. Who knows what could happen the next time? Yeah. Like, this is a true story. This is not hyperbole. That happened. Like, the chances of it happening, really low. You know, that's probably not a thing that's going to happen. But that's a failure mode that these things are capable of. Whereas if you actually have a real fuse and things like that, and you have, you know, some kind of real protection that actually has standards compliance, it is not possible for those failure modes to occur.
Yeah.
That's the point of having a fuse and things like that.
£30 8 kilowatt spot welder?
£30 8 kilowatt spot welder. Jesus wept. Also, Katrina has explained the nature of the sausage and the caraway seeds.
Yes.
Because of Caradog.
Yes, it's filled. Never mind.
Oh, yes. Piece together the rest of this joke yourself, my friends. I'm sure you're capable of it. Ah. Kurt Dawes says, Graham, as a content creator on YouTube, can you specify a time limit for subscribers to edit a comment? Not that I'm aware of.
What is scale?
To my knowledge, you can edit a comment indefinitely. But I've not really looked into that. I've not tried to edit a comment a significant amount of time after leaving it. But also, I've seen a lot of comments that have been edited a time after they've been left. So, yeah, I'm not aware of any such restriction. I would be extremely surprised if the channel owner is capable of setting that time limit. So, yeah. What are you looking at now?
Oh, there was a thing. There was with a hand holding a thing, and it said about soldering 18650s. But the 18650s were this big, and the thing was this big, and the hand was like this big, and it was just like, what is perspective? What is scale? Is this item 1.5 meters long? And this person has ridiculous grip strength.
Some of the Photoshop jobs you see are genuinely hilarious. Not just on AliExpress, but even on Amazon. I've seen one that was for like some kind of like neck support, neck warmer thing, like keeps your neck straight while you're sleeping in a car or something like that. And the picture of it, it was some lady wearing it while smiling. And in order for it to have made any sense whatsoever, her neck would have been about that long. Her, you know, like her shoulders were here and her head was like here. And I was like, what is this picture? What is this non-humanoid model that you found? You know? Very strange. I will not apologise for the awkward chewing noises.
Long woman.
Long neck woman can't hurt you. She isn't real. Long neck woman sticks her head around the door. You know.
No, it looks like the inhabitants of Camino.
1 million units are already ready, with 1 million more on the way, or something.
Yes, 1 million units ready, with 1 million more well on the way.
Why the long face? Oh!
Is there a subreddit for bad marketing Photoshop pics? I'm sure there is.
To Google!
There is a subreddit for everything.
This stream is basically dead time while I finish eating this sausage, so, you know. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Oh. I see. That's not how a body works.
Yeah, that's AI generated.
Oh. I see. Yes.
That's kind of weird, actually. Yeah, it never occurred to me.
Two-dimensional cat. But also apparently it's a makeup bag with a cat in it.
It never occurred to me that people would be using AI-generated pictures for product images. But now I'm seeing them. I'm like, of course they do. Of course so many product images are just AI-generated now. That's wild, man. In 2 days, the stream will proceed. Quiet, you. He's having a good time, though, isn't he? You know, of course it's from Timo, you know.
Automatic rebound abdominal wheel with elbow support for effective belly training. Would you like a cock harness?
It's for a chicken, just to, you know, like, just to make sure we're all clear on that. For when you're taking your chicken for a walk. I'm not being facetious. That's what we're looking at.
Available in 7 colours and 3 sizes.
7 clear, 3 Groot.
Oh, I've just noticed there's even a little bow tie.
That's very adorable, in all fairness. Once again, this is a chicken. Merch when? Actually soon. I have made... Oh my god. We should have set up the capture for this. This is gold. We could just make this the stream. Well, at least share the subreddit with the people so people can go and look.
This is just r/bad Photoshop.
I see. Okay, right. Merch when? I have made up basic products that are on the Fourth Wall website, but currently marked as out of stock. All I have to do is mark them as in stock so people can pull the trigger on them. I'm going to look at these during the week. I'm away tomorrow for a wedding. Otherwise, I'd be doing it this weekend. However, we're a lot further along than we were before. We're this close. So, yes. Reminds me of the old Top Gear gag. I went on the internet and I found this. Right. I'm going to leave the end because it's just got skin and like wrap on it. Okay. Fan. What is that cat? AI generated cats in cat tree. Okay, right. We might need to I might need to make an executive decision and ask you to close the tab so the show can continue. Caradog, please.
I'm sorry, but...
Especially because we can't even share these with the audience. Alright, that fan is fitted. Going to run the cable around the outside.
When are you getting samples? Is that what you're going to do in the week?
Oh yes, no, I do need to order samples. You're right. Yeah, I haven't ordered samples yet. I will. I'll do that. I'll do that tonight, actually. Yeah, because like I need to do the other design. I want to get another design because I've only got the logo designs. However, like, I don't need samples of every single design straight off the bat.
No.
The only reason why I want samples is just so the t-shirt can arrive and I can just look at the print quality and the shirt quality and be like, yeah, that's fine. I'm not ashamed of this. Whereas if the t-shirt rocks up and I'm like, this is tat, this is not worth the money, then yeah, that's a problem. And like, I'll get that impression from any design. It doesn't have to be every design. So, like, ultimately, I'll get a sample of every single bit of merch that I make, but I don't need a sample of everything before launching. Before launching the basics, anyway. Okay. Focus.
I built this Apollo 5 entirely out of parts from Wish.
Oh, no.
Also, so you can model the merch for the announcement video.
It's true.
Here is some merch for my channel. Yes.
For context, this is based on a joke that my dad often does, where when my dad used to do a lot of mountain climbing and he was kind of ripped, he would be like, yes, I climbed a mountain this high over there. Hence the gag. So yeah. Civlap, thank you very much for the $5 dues. May I be the first to congratulate you on a successful election and a smooth transference of power. So we refrain from doing a lot of political stuff on this channel, but I will at the very least say, ding dong, the witch is dead, the wicked witch is dead. And say, no matter how the circumstances of this occurrence have become, I am very glad that they have become. Decode that however you wish. You get the idea. Something about own goals. We were talking about this before stream. So yeah.
I had a successful election this morning.
What, did you elect to have breakfast?
In other news, the Olympics.
When do they start?
As Jay says, in 18 days' time.
Oh, fair enough.
Yes.
Very well.
Apparently the French were keeping the river unclean by activities.
I haven't followed up on that. I heard of that when it first sort of came into effect, but I haven't heard about how well that's going. But yeah, don't know. There's some weird stories coming out of the Olympics. Is that believe it or not, the Olympics are bad for tourism. Because even though there's a lot of people who are going to Paris for the Olympics, overall, travel and bookings are down on average because most holiday makers are not going to Paris to avoid the Olympics. They would be getting more tourism on a non-Olympic year than they are getting on an Olympic year. So it is arguably suggesting that at least for a place that is already fairly tourist heavy, the notion that the Olympics are good for tourism is debunked. The Olympics are bad for tourism. You will get more on a non-Olympic year if you already have a tourist industry. So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. Brutal Pizza, thank you for the £10. Notice when CPU encoding on OBS when streaming TF2 that actually for whatever reason drops my TF2 CPU usage, but I don't lose performance. Is that because of the V-cache or doing the work? So drops my TF2 CPU usage. So TF2 CPU usage going down, that may just be task allocation because certain tasks might bounce around threads, and if there is another heavier thread going on, then the TF2 load might get put on another core somewhere. Ultimately, your CPU load will still be the same or higher. overall by some means. But also, just realistically though, there's not really any good reason to be CPU encoding these days. So yeah, it's certainly not going to be. It's not going to be the Vcache doing that lifting at the very least, because encoding is compute work. So that will still be core load, not cache load.
Yeah, you might just get it appear to have not scheduled across a slightly wider number of threads. It may have scheduled across a narrower number. That's a better way of putting it.
Yeah, but the old tale that CPU encoding is higher quality than GPU encoding, I don't know if that still holds up anymore, because obviously GPU encoding gets an awful lot of development, whereas CPU encoding doesn't. So I would actually wager that GPU encoding is probably as good as, at least as good as CPU encoding, and less intensive. Citation needed. On that note, I need to do a...
Yes, I think for the 20 series NVENC encoder, someone from... Oh, what are they called? Lav? You know, the actual encoder community thing. You know, FFmpeg like bundles up like the Lav encoder and things like that.
Okay, yeah.
I think someone from there was saying about the hardware changes that NVIDIA was making and the improvements they had merged into the open encoders had meant that NVENC was better at maintaining quality for video games because they'd built the encoder and the encoder hardware for video encoding. Therefore, if you're streaming video games, the quality is higher because that's what they built it for.
Yes.
Because what the hell else does anyone stream on a graphics card, if that makes sense? So it was kind of a case of, I know someone from one of those groups was talking about that, and they, you know, this was one of the people who's like, I build encoders because they're fun to build new ones.
One of those, yeah.
Who's also like, I was in a 16-hour meeting with NVIDIA talking about encoders. Kind of thing. So it was like, yes, one of them. And I was just like, okay, fair enough. You still have light? Do you have fan?
Yes. And this fan should be slightly more because there's these resistors are a lower rating than the other ones. So the fact that that one survived means that by this one will be running slightly louder. So that one will also work. So yes, good. And just for posterity as well.
Do you have RGB?
Yeah, I was going to say... I don't know the rear panel controls very well on this. Brightness. Mode. There we go. There's the mode. There we go. And there's RGB mode. So now the inside rings that were previously not lit up, now those are lit up doing colours. The colour isn't coming out because it's too bright for the camera.
Huh. Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, so it's just hitting white.
That's an excellent demonstration of the difference between colour and colour volume.
Yeah, luminance, I guess.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, this is a very saturated colour to look at. That looks bright red to me, but it's just coming out as white on camera.
Or possibly pink.
Yeah, like, if you just, if you tank the...
Hold on.
Yeah, tank the exposure. Yeah, there we go. So that's red at the moment, and... oh, I thought that wasn't supposed to be on RGB. Hold on a sec. Where's the angle?
Whoa.
Sorry. There we go. There we go. So there's... Is it just cycling? That's hard red. There we go. So red.
Flicker incessantly.
Oh, if you drop the ISO a little bit, that brought back the colour saturation. Yeah, like tank it down basically. There we go. So there's red, and then as you can see, now we're getting colours. So yeah, colors. Yeah, you get the idea. All right, that works. Oops, I just banged my microphone. Sorry about that, everyone.
What did we find didn't flicker? Was it 100?
Yeah, 100, 100, I think. Yeah, that sounds about right. Sometimes 200 for a bit of overexposure, but 100 looks good, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah, that looks fine to me, to be honest. We tend to go a little bit tame on the main camera, so. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I'm reading through the thing again. All right.
It's bicolor white LEDs in there, isn't it?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
There is. I believe there is a cold white and a warm white on there. Is what's going on.
Yes, that's probably saying it about 4,000 and saying about 6.
Yeah, sounds about right. Probably even lower than 4,000 actually. Can you illuminate just the room?
2,700.
I mean, we can. Like, if you want to, I can turn this on and just show you what this thing can do on its own. That's sure. Yeah, like if you want a gauge on how bright these lights can do on their own, then sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like let's fun. It is daylight outside, so we can't kill the light entirely, but that's ceiling lights off.
There you go.
Right, so now we're down to just light spill from outside. Oh yeah, we're pitch black now, so that's fine. So let's turn that on. Oh, I need to plug in
it in.
Wow. There's white. There we go. All right. That's 25%. Are we on automatic exposure, or has it just figured itself out? Oh, oh, it's on pulsing. That's why. Hold on.
That camera's fixed, and that camera's fixed as well.
Effects, CCT. Right, I think that's constant brightness. There we go. So yeah, that's 25% from a single light. And if I crank that up to full, and that's full brightness from a single light. Now, bearing in mind that normally what we had just then was 2 key lights, a softbox, and a lot of ceiling light. So like this has got a lot to make up for, but yeah. But either way, they're pretty darn bright, basically. Yeah, like I could use this to see what I'm doing perfectly well. However, when you're doing filming or photography, you need more. However much light you think you have, you need more. Basically.
Yeah, certainly having the option of having an awful lot more just means that, especially if it's like actual DC light, so it's not pulse width.
Yeah.
So you don't get flickering on it.
Right. That's the
just
key
means
lights.
that you can run massively high shutter speeds and stuff by comparison.
Yeah. So this is just the key lights in the softbox. So you can see how the key lights in the softbox are specifically lighting up us, and then the ceiling lights, those will just illuminate the rest of the room and give just more on us. But yeah, the ceiling lights in here are kind of nuts. We've got 9 panels in here, and each panel is 3,000 lumens at 5,000 Kelvin, I think, 5,200. If I notice it, daylight balanced, basically.
Yeah, they are slightly.
Watch your eyes.
They are slightly cooler. No, sorry, they are slightly warmer than daylight white because they're 56, I think, as opposed to 65.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
However, 65, when you put that in an artificial light, looks blue. You know, like if you told me daylight was 65, I'd be like, okay, I'm still going to get like 56 and call that daylight.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to go any colder than these. These are pretty clinical, in my opinion.
Yeah, but the white point that's used for basically everything is what's called D65, which is daylight 65, which is what was measured as as white in Paris. It's all based off of white in Paris in June, midday sort of thing.
I see. Understandable.
Yeah.
Hello, PNF. So yes, these are disco lights. I guess they are sold as photography lights, but what's the difference? I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yes, I use these for. One of these is the softbox for the main YouTube stream, which just provides just wash illumination on my face and the bench. I also use 2 key lights for the YouTube videos, and then the other 2, these ones specifically that I have on the bench, I have at home for the Twitch streams.
I was going to say also the other thing is a 60-watt incandescent would be nowhere near bright enough. If you were doing it with non-LED lighting, you would need what? Something approaching what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 kilowatts of incandescent?
Yeah,
something that you need
maybe.
in that order?
The other problem with incandescent is obviously because it's omnidirectional, it's a lot more difficult to get the light out of an incandescent. Whereas because LEDs are directional, you are projecting the light in the direction that you want it to go. So
yeah, or at least, they're 180 degree directional.
So you just you immediately have significantly less losses in reflection. Right, that's on. Now I just have to turn this until I find the way that it sits.
Oh yeah, I forgot it had a little diffuser on there.
Yes.
I thought they'd been really skimpy and dropped the diffuser sheet off of the front of it and we're just like, you'll always use this with a softbox because if you don't, it will hurt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the softbox obviously adds a whole load more diffusion, which is needed. That's one of the things that makes softboxes so good, is because they're so heavily diffused, you can have them be brighter and still be good. I'm going to have to actually line this up and figure out how it goes on. 1, 2, 2. Right, there we go. Why is that not fitting now?
Hacking.
There we go. Okay, it's on. Ugh. Whew.
I honestly thought you were flipping it over because you're just going to go. Where do you need these little ones to go?
The small ones go on the board, and this one doesn't have screws in yet.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an interesting comment I heard from someone talking about, I think it was the set of Emmerdale or something, where they swapped in
For context,
one go.
Emmerdale is a very long-running soap opera in the UK.
Where they swapped all of the lights on the TV set in one go, from old style lights to modern LED panels and stuff.
Okay.
And apparently the average temperature in the studio dropped by the difference between we can do a 6-hour day in here and we can do a 10-hour day in here kind of thing, or something they were saying. And it dropped by such an amount that they were doing longer takes and people weren't caring.
Yeah.
And it's just that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it wouldn't
when
surprise
you think
me.
about it.
I've never stood under an incandescent spotlight kind of thing, or incandescent studio lighting. However, I said when I turned this up to 100 and put my hand in front of it, I was like, wow, you can feel the heat on that. And this thing is a toy compared to a TV set lighting.
Yeah.
Actual professional movie TV set lighting, you can't put your hand in front of it. So having a bunch of those pointing at you, you just boil.
Yeah, and I don't know if they gave actual specific numbers, but just everyone was commenting about just it was much nicer to work in there because it was much less hot. And I was like, that's just an interesting side effect that you don't really think of, and you're just like, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing about LED lighting is just because it's incredibly controllable and incredibly consistent as well, which is the other reason why it's very desirable for photographers, because incandescent lights, you can't control their temperature, and the temperature drifts depending on how hot the lamp is and how worn out the lamp is and things like that. Whereas, oh, is that? I've left a screw out. Oh, and that screw's from the other one, and it's not required because the fan is only held in with one screw anyway. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like just that. Who did a video on the history of the blue LED recently? I say recently.
Veritasium.
Yeah.
That was really good, that video.
And like I think it did an awful lot to kind of demonstrate how big of a breakthrough it was for changing lots of kind of unrelated things.
Yeah, yeah, because the discovery of the blue LED then immediately heralded the ability to make white light with LEDs,
Yeah.
which now means that LEDs are now useful for something other than indicators.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that's the thing. Is just like I've said it for years. Like people talk about what's changed, and people talk about the internet and stuff like that. But man, if you ask me what has changed the world the most, LEDs, LiPo batteries, has just completely transformed the world, because there's so much technology that was just unthinkable when I was a kid. Because like when I was a kid, the blue LED was already discovered, but like we didn't have white LED lighting was still exotic and expensive, and we sure as heck didn't have LiPo batteries. Like when I was a kid, I was playing with remote control cars that used NiCad batteries, and you had like 15-20 minutes of a car bumbling around on pavement. You couldn't drive it on grass. It didn't have the power to drive on grass.
Yeah.
That was me with a remote control car in the 90s. Couldn't drive it on grass. You had maybe 15-20 minutes before the battery was knackered, and then you would have like a day of charging those NiCad batteries back up. These kinds of technologies have transformed toys and hobbies as we know them in ways that people cannot fathom. It's very interesting to me. Right, scrolling through the chat. Turnip Gaming says, I watched a YouTube video ages ago about LEDs and turned out they're underrated technology, but they changed lighting forever. Oh yeah, that was obviously the jumping off point there. So yes, indeed.
Oh wow, okay, interesting. I was just looking as a point of reference at a smartphone from 2007 did use a lithium polymer battery. I wondered if
smartphones were really early to the LiPo club, presumably because that's what they needed to actually be viable.
Yeah, I just wondered if it was going to be something different. Just because,
Yeah, I wonder how far back in mobile phones you have to go before we get to Naimai.
Yeah.
Actually.
That's what I was kind of trying to look at. But I can't find anything old enough.
Katrina's like, my remote control car still had a cable. Understandable.
Yeah.
Dave Weldon says, I'm confused. A dozen 60-watt light bulbs would consume 720 watts of power. Are we saying we can get 12 kilowatts of heat just from 70? Okay, that depends on what numbers people are saying. I haven't read that enough to understand the context there. However, the inference is that with incandescent light, because of the inefficiency of the light, you have to have significantly more wattage of bulbs to get the equivalent of lighting. Kind of like
remember the same lux.
Yeah.
Or Candler or
remember
whatever,
with compact fluorescent energy saver light bulbs, they used to say it's a 60-watt equivalent. The bulb was more like 15 watts, but it provided the equivalent light level of a 60-watt bulb. I think that's probably what people are saying with a lot of these numbers. Bong. All right, that is assembled. I'll make sure it still turns on as a special treat. Bah. Cool. All right.
The inference.
Those are fixed.
The inference from the Wikipedia article is that the first consumerized product using some sort of lithium-ion type battery was 1991.
That's pretty early, yeah.
Which is, interesting. But obviously just the fact of there was so much time for that to reach mass proliferation.
Yeah. Yeah, and also just to be financially viable, I assume.
Yeah, for the price to come down.
Yeah, that car that I mentioned that would have been NiCads, that was AA NiCads, and then in the late 90s, because I always liked remote control cars as I was a kid. I just never got into them as an adult. But then the later ones, we had turbo RC cars, and those were NiMi powered. And then you would have a nickel metal hydride pack that would slot into the car. And then obviously now you had the power to drive over grass and go up hills and stuff like that. And those were orders of magnitude better. But yeah, I don't know when LiPo came into the picture. But yeah, interesting that lithium ion was already a thing in stuff like phones by the 90s. But presumably was too expensive to be worth putting in a toy.
Well, yeah, because for a toy, you need it to be as cheap as possible, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember everything being nickel metal hydride as the replacement for NiCad because of the loss of the memory effect.
Yeah. What was the memory effect? Because NiMi had its own problems. NiMi still had, after you put a certain amount of cycles into a NiMi, it would still be knackered. But my understanding was that
it was
failure...
like about 1,000, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's fairly high.
Yeah.
But my understanding was that was not the same as the memory effect. But...
no, it was a gradual reduction in capacity.
Okay.
With LiPo,
yeah.
if I remember correctly. Well, not a gradual... If I remember correctly, it did, a certain number of cycles hit basically 99% capacity. Then you got to a certain number and then it started tapering off. That's my memory of it.
Yeah. Yeah. The problem is people often assign names to things that become the name of a thing, but doesn't actually describe the fault in any meaningful way. So, yeah.
Yeah. The memory effect was a reduction in cell capacity.
Yeah, so just the same as any other failure
But it
mode,
wasn't
then.
a degradation. It wasn't caused by a degradation. It was caused by you only charging it to a certain level, and somehow charging it to not fully charged meant that new not fully charged was the maximum level it would charge to.
Oh.
Or something. Or there was some weird thing with that. I don't recall because obviously I didn't have that much operational experience with it because I'd have been 8.
Fair enough, yeah.
But yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah, I merely ask you just because you have a decent knowledge of, because you did a thing with batteries at one point during education, so you have an amount of knowledge on this stuff.
Oh, I spent, an awful lot of time looking at optimized lead acid charging cycles for peak energy capacity versus discharge.
I see. Understandable.
Yes.
Have a supercharged day.
Yes. To read the opening paragraph of the Wikipedia article, memory effect, also known as battery effect, lazy battery effect, or battery memory, is an effect observed in nickel-cadmium rechargeable batteries that causes them to hold less charge. It describes the situation in which NiCad batteries gradually lose their maximum capacity if they are repeatedly recharged after being only partially discharged.
Yeah.
The battery appears to remember the smaller capacity.
Interesting. Yeah, so the failure mode is the same in that you have reduced total capacity, but it was as a result of not being fully discharged. Whereas, by comparison, LiPo doesn't care what it was discharged to. It only really, until you go down to critically discharged, it only really cares about being less than 20% or greater than 80%, broadly speaking.
Interesting, right. The term memory came from an aerospace nickel-cadmium application in which the cells were repeatedly discharged to 25% of the available capacity, give or take 1%, by an exacting computer control, then recharged to 100% capacity without overcharge. This long-term repetitive cycle regime with no provision for overcharge resulted in a loss of capacity beyond the 25% discharge point. True memory cannot exist if one or more of the following conditions holds. Batteries achieve full overcharge. Discharge is not exactly the same each cycle, within plus or minus 3%. Discharge is to less than 1 volt per cell. Interesting.
Yeah, so my decoding of that is that with NiCads, you needed to actually fully discharge them, like to stone dead. Whereas lithium, you don't do that. You actually don't really want to take lithium under 20% in an ideal world. So yeah. So again, the effect is the same, but the cause is different.
Yeah, and also it sounds like, at least from here, from the way that was saying, is that if you did a full overcharge, it would then regain that capacity.
So my read of that is that by overcharge, basically you would charge the battery up to 100%, and if you kept the power on at that point, it would recover the bottom of the battery. So presumably the bottom of the battery that has not recovered probably has like a higher resistance or something like that. So it would not actually chemically change itself until the rest of the battery had finished charging and consuming the energy. So this is this is kind of the reverse of what happens with lithium, where lithium, the surface degrades in extreme conditions. So yeah, interesting. I'm not explaining this very well, but yeah. Yeah, Sai agrees. The opposite of now, yeah. And yeah, with an EV, you should keep it within 20 to 80%, which effectively takes away 40% of the range. Yes, effectively. And this is why...
For peak maximum longevity.
Yeah.
It's also the case of, or you can completely ignore that and just be like, it's still got 10 years.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. But that much being said, that's the recommended thing. So, but now we get into the argument of should battery manufacturers, especially for something like an EV, where it's obviously a very heavy load on the battery pack, should they be over-provisioning the batteries, is the question there. But that's that's a whole...
They almost all are.
Yeah, so there you go.
Your usable verse installed is generally different by somewhere between 5 and 15 kilowatts.
How does that relate to percentage? Because if we're saying that 40% is inaccessible if you want to stay between 20 and 80, what's the percentage of over-provisioning?
Somewhere around 10%, generally.
Yeah, so you get a bit of that back through over-provisioning, which means that they have installed a bigger battery than they say they have, effectively. You know, so yeah. If you say you've got to keep the battery between 20 and 80%, so you lose 40%. However, the battery is actually capable of a range that is, say, 10% greater than what they're advertising. Whether or not they achieve that or not is obviously up to the reviewers to decide. But yeah.
Yeah. Also, the fact of just from my perspective, it's more of a case of just don't run it to 1% and don't charge it to 99%.
Yeah.
Beyond that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The only reason I wouldn't run it down to 1% is because that gets a little squeaky on running out in exactly the same way as you wouldn't want to run a petrol car to 0 miles remaining on the indicated range. Yeah. Because you start going, ha!
Mike Jones says, I've been recharging an electric scooter from 0 to 100 every day, sometimes twice a day. I haven't seen any noticeable capacity lost after nearly 1,000 kilometres. Yeah. And had 770 on it before I got it. So obviously your mileage may vary, literally, but yeah.
If you are in a position where you can only charge to 90-something%, as opposed to 100, and you don't discharge it below, 5%, it's going to put less wear on the battery. So those kind of things are like...
Yeah. And obviously range is very dependent on external factors as well, yes, so that's also worth keeping in mind.
But yeah, it's the same with like mobile phones.
Yeah.
If you can charge that to 95% and discharge it to only 5% instead of it switching off and being dead, you're putting less wear in for a cycle than a full cycle would be. Same with cars, batteries for your RC car or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, and I would assume that with cars, the battery pack is going to be less affected by scale as well, because, Mike Jones also then said, meanwhile, my phone has been recharging from 80% back to 100 every day and saw a noticeable decrease in capacity after just a year. And yeah, I think that's a story all of us can relate to. I think we've all had phones that have seen a noticeable drop in battery performance through our ownership of the phone, unless you religiously take care of the battery.
Yeah.
But obviously we're dealing with a much smaller battery. And I think as the scale goes up, so with an electric vehicle, you have an enormous battery pack by comparison, like an industrial scale battery pack by comparison. The effects are significantly lessened because it's spread over such a bigger surface area, so to speak.
Yeah. And I think also I would presume, but I have absolutely zero evidence for this. This is entirely an assumption, that there would be a greater pushing of the cell in your phone than there is in any other application, because they are going for the absolute minimum tolerances on size, the absolute minimum tolerances on weight, the absolute minimum tolerance on reported capacity, and so on.
Yeah.
So, and because of that, you're going to see that drop off much more, because effectively that kind of, say it dropped off by 10% in a year, that 10% in a year on your phone was 10% that you never had in another application.
Yeah.
Because there were bigger margins.
Yeah.
That's entirely supposition. And
of course, a phone is only expected to last for a couple of years, before we replace it. Whereas a car, a car, you're expecting to get 10 years out of this car minimum.
10 years, 15 years, 20 years, etc.
So being as brutal as possible, we're expecting to get 10 years out of it, and a 10% degradation on a on an EV's battery pack would be a massive drop in range.
It'd be about 30 miles.
Yeah, I suppose.
You'd be talking about 30 miles.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, however, at the very least, car battery management seems to be significantly stricter than phone battery management, which is the takeaway here.
Yeah.
And man, I wish laptops would start managing their batteries this well as well, because it's really uncommon to see a laptop actually manage its battery. And that's something that we really need. Because a lot of people will leave their laptop just plugged in on a desk all the time.
Oh, did I show you the options in the Dell BIOS for managing that?
Does it have it?
Yeah, there's an option in there called primarily on AC power. I don't know what it does, but there's an option called that. And that's obviously for laptops that are mostly used on docks and stuff in an enterprise environment.
So
once a month you pull it off of the dock and you go visit a client.
Oh, that's interesting. So one would assume that that's going to tell the laptop to only charge the battery to 80% or something.
Yeah.
It'd be very interesting to look at the behavior mode of that to see what exactly
There's also
it's doing.
custom options you can set for custom percentages and things.
Yeah.
So there is quite a lot of options you can fiddle with in the power settings for kind of the charging. I haven't done any in-depth testing, but it appears that the custom mode where you set percentages yourself seems to make it a bit squicky with charging over PD USB-C. Just for some reason it will only charge off of certain PD chargers I have with that setting enabled.
Interesting.
But it's inside a percentage it should be charging, but it would only charge it like 5 watts. And then as soon as you turn the device off, it would drop to 0 watts and things like that. So it's just being a bit weird.
I don't know if Dell PD chargers do any kind of weird communications or not.
As far as I'm aware, the Dell USB-C chargers are not PD chargers.
Yeah, because like my my main bench has a Dell 120 watt USB charger on it, and there are some devices that just do not like it. Like I thought it was the Paul Daniels power meter, but I'm fairly certain that it is the charger itself. Just some laptops will just be like, I'm not like, for example, if I plug my phone into that one, I need to try it. I'm going to quickly do it now, actually. When I plug it into the Paul Daniels meter, it will not go past 5 volt 1 amp.
Yeah.
But I'll just try it bare on the charger and just check if that's the charger or the Paul Daniels meter. Super quick. And the answer to that is... yeah, it's the charger. Like, I've just plugged that into a...
I guess it just went charging slowly.
Right. It doesn't say charging slowly, but it doesn't say charging fast, which is what it should do.
Yeah, so that's somewhere between 5 and 10 watts.
Yeah. So it's certainly not negotiating fast charge, and it's on a 130 watt USB Type-C charger.
Yeah, but 130 isn't a PD level.
Precisely. So yeah. So that's probably why some of the Dell laptops are squicky about this. And
interesting.
This also tallies because I had I bought a couple of Dell Latitudes, and they were secondhand Dell Latitudes, and they were delivered to me with Lenovo Type-C chargers, and one of them came back, and the customer saying it's not charging properly. It would charge, but it would not charge if the laptop was stone dead. It would not charge it from flat. It would only top it up.
Yeah, that's the behavior I've got.
So obviously there's something going on there, and the Dell chargers are obviously doing something slightly different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It also just doesn't negotiate maximum power properly.
Yeah.
But like this does. This actually has proper Type-C charging, and will negotiate on everything and actually just charge. Well, I say that.
Yeah, see, I bet money if I plug that into that bench, it will sit on 5 volts, because I've had that with a lot of Chromebooks.
Yeah.
If I plug a Chromebook into the bench charger, it will sit at 5 volts. Whereas I plug it into the Pine Power over there, and it will go 15 volts. Yeah. So yeah. Joho says Lenovo has the software Lenovo Vantage to set the battery percentage levels for charging, and it will write the settings to the battery management chip. That's interesting, and that I would say that's good, but also I hate the Lenovo OEM software. It's so much of it causes so many problems. So that's kind of neat that they have that, but also it means running Lenovo Vantage, which is terrible. So that's a very double-edged sword right there. But on the other hand, though, if you know that your battery isn't going to get a lot of exercise, then it's probably worth the trade there. Vantage is ew, yeah. Interesting that it actually has useful functions, though.
Yeah, I've not played around with the PD stuff that much, but I've just been looking for devices that will do PD charging, just because I want a laptop that I don't need to carry a charger for.
Yeah.
I can just take my charger with me.
Yeah.
Because I've got a 180 watt capable PD compliant charger that will do my phone, it will do my watch, it does everything.
Yes.
And then I want a laptop that fits into that ecosystem.
Yeah. This is one of the nicest things about the new Type-C Meta, is that you can just carry a big ass charger with you that has multiple outputs, and it will just charge all of your stuff when you're traveling.
Yeah.
Which isn't something I do very often, but yeah, it's certainly pretty cozy. The last couple of times that I've gone somewhere for a weekend, I have chucked a Type-C charger, chucked a Type-C charger in my bag, and then like a laptop, and not had to carry any other chargers with me. And yeah.
And the other reason I want it as well is just because obviously it means that the laptop can run off of a power bank that can do 120 watts.
Yeah.
Because if you've got a 120 watt capable power bank and you plug that into a laptop, and the laptop draws the 65 or 80 watts it wants, you've now got longer battery life on your laptop, effectively.
Yeah.
So if you need, 6 hours out of it, but it only does 5 in the application you're using it for, you get that extra hour just by way of having a effectively commodity battery bank. And also if you've only got access to, a 25 watt charger, you can still charge your laptop.
Yeah.
It takes 2 steps, possibly, but you still have a combination that works. So you can charge the battery bank at 25 watt overnight whilst you're asleep, and then take the battery bank with you if a laptop decides to be a bit weird about that charger. So yeah, these are kind of those things I like.
Civlap says, how complicated does a charger have to be? Used to be when all you had to worry about was the type of tip and the voltage. Yeah, well, PD is the answer to that. That's how complicated it needs to be. If it's power delivery compliant, which is the universal standard, then you've got no problems. The issue is we're kind of in a weird halfway point where
some people are doing.
Up until recently, power delivery compliant topped out at 65 watts. There is now higher wattage versions. However, as everyone switched over to Type-C chargers, if you had a laptop that required more than 65 watts and, you know, bigger laptops and 90 watt laptops, then you had to do a custom implementation of Type-C charging that was kind of sort of compatible. And that's what we're seeing with these Dell ones.
Yeah.
You know they've got latitudes out there that need a 90 watt charger, but power delivery is only actually rated for 65 watt. Now there are better versions available, but that was obviously it takes years to implement stuff. So
yeah,
I mean, it was 100 watt, 100 and 120 watt are the two newer ones, aren't they?
The newest one, PD 3.2, is 240.
Oh wow,
it's 240 watt.
That's the really spicy 50 volt one, though, isn't it? Or is it still 20 volt?
It's 40 volt.
40 volt, yeah.
It's double the voltage, same current.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to fit it over the same gauge cable.
Yes.
So they doubled the voltage.
Yeah. However, still 40 volts is spicy. So yeah.
But also, obviously, for that to connect, it first has to connect with a 5 volt signal, then step up between each voltage, and then step up the current, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, it's a good system, I think, personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, laptop connects to charger and says, give me all you got. And the charger's like, are you sure? Because I got 40 volts, son. Are you sure? You know? So, yeah. Yeah, 40 volts is getting into, like, I wouldn't class it as high voltage, but we're definitely getting into areas of you wouldn't want to put your fingers across that territory, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, like I often in videos where I've been doing like power injection, I'm doing the touchy-feely on the board, people are like, can you touch the board while you're injecting power? And I'm like, yeah, it's 1 volt, you're fine. And people are like, well, how high does voltage need to be before it's dangerous? And the answer to that is about 50 volts, is my understanding. 50 volts is when things start getting spicy.
Oh, excuse me.
And by
if
spicy,
you have dry hands.
Yes, I was going to say, by spicy, I mean that's the point where it can actually start penetrating your skin, kind of thing. Obviously, a 9 volt battery, that'll penetrate your tongue, and you'll, yeah.
I hate it when my pun gets penetrated.
Don't lick 9 volt batteries, people. But yeah. And then, of course, we've got EV cars that are, what are they, like 900 volts now? For the top spec EV cars?
All of the ones that are on market are 800.
800, yeah. Like that's still pretty spicy, yeah.
Yeah, 800 DC.
Yeah, but that's the kind of voltage you need to run if you want to pump like 12 kilowatts into a battery or something.
Imagine only charging at 12 kilowatts.
Oh my God, is it higher than that? I don't know these things.
It's 300.
300 kilowatts?
Yes.
Jesus.
300 kilowatt fast charging.
It's kind of scary.
Oh,
you know,
it's fine. CATL have just come out with their 480 kilowatt chargers.
That's half a megawatt.
Yeah. That's just the cars.
Yeah. That's half a megawatt.
Mercedes have a 1.5 megawatt truck charger.
Bloody, like an actual, like a real wind turbine. Like an actual wind turbine that is providing energy for the grid is like, what, 4 megawatts?
The little ones, yeah.
Yeah, for a little one, yeah. So just like, that's kind of nuts, the amount of power we're dealing with there. Is it not the amperage that kills you? It's the energy that kills you. And that's a bit harder to nail down. So, yes, it is the amps that kill you, but you need voltage to deliver the amps. you can have 1,000 amps at 1 volt and feel nothing, because there's not enough voltage to push that energy into you. So you need both. However, if you're at, say, 240 volts, then 7 amps is going to give you a belt that you will feel, you know. At 240 volts, 7 milliamps will make you go, ah! And you know, that will give you a belt kind of thing. And I think about 10 or 11 milliamps is the point where your body will actually, if you touch 240 volts at about 10 milliamps, that's the point where your muscles will seize and you will not be able to let go of what it is that's killing you. So it is the amps, but you need the volts to deliver the amps as well. So it's complicated, but yeah, it is both of them. You need both to actually do the damage. It is the amps that actually do damage, but you need volts to deliver the amps. I can throw a bullet at you and it won't hurt you. But if I fire the bullet out of a gun, it will hurt you. And actually, that's a really good analogy. I'm going to pat myself on the back for that one. So yeah,
So,
high amperage at low voltage is like throwing a bullet at someone.
so you're saying about wind turbines. The biggest in actual operation with recorded output of that level is 16 megawatts
Okay.
and had actual output at 16 megawatts.
Yeah.
Okay. The largest currently being installed is 22 megawatts. It has a swept area of 75,438 square meters.
Wow.
Its rotor diameter is over 310 meters.
Interesting.
That's insane.
Yeah.
It's a big boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, hello, I would like to power, 22,000 homes.
Yeah. If you want to know more about wind turbines,
There's this wonderful channel called Ben Eater.
Shut. Ben Eater is really good. You should all subscribe. Real Engineering recently did a video on the problem with wind turbines and how they present and what kind of challenges they present, because Ireland has a lot of wind power and they're trying to figure out how to best use it. And wind turbines have an interesting issue, is that they are annoyingly high maintenance because they've got gearboxes in them in order to get the ratios correct for the frequency. And the problem with wind turbines is they cannot correct grid frequency. They have no inertia.
Yeah, they are inertialess.
Yeah, and you would think that because of the big spinning blades, like, well, that's got inertia, right? But the problem is that those big spinning blades, that you can't make them go faster.
But you can't also direct link them to make them go slower.
Yeah.
Because you'll just shear the blades.
Yeah. So yes, wind turbines are they're a very, very powerful source of energy for places like Ireland, but also you need more than just wind turbines. So yeah, as I say, Real Engineering has a very interesting video on it that they released very recently. Highly recommend watching.
Yeah, it's where the grid scale batteries and stuff start coming in as well.
Well, also, as this video said,
because they're instant balancing.
Yeah, as this video said, Ireland have recently installed at an old coal-fired power station that already had all of the interlinks to the grid. They installed a massive flywheel.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's just flywheel energy storage, and like it takes like 30 minutes for this thing to spool up. But once it's spooled up, it's extremely efficient. It's in a vacuum chamber.
Yeah.
So
it's got like 20,000 RPM or something.
I can't. It was pretty damn high. Yeah, it was one of those things where you think that thing must be terrifying. Like, I hope they've got like armor on the vacuum chamber, And
then armor on the armor's armor.
Yes.
And then a mountain between me and it.
Yeah. But yeah, suffice to say, because it's in a vacuum chamber, this flywheel is extremely efficient to keep spinning. But obviously, if your wind turbine suddenly drops, or there's just suddenly a massive demand, this thing can suddenly provide a huge amount of inertia to the power grid. And they're testing it with the mind to install more of them if it goes well.
Yeah. You can tell it's windy today. The UK is presently generating 11 gigawatts of energy from grid for the grid through wind.
Excellent. Yeah.
But yeah. What was I looking
Dr.
for?
Galvani says, build more nuclear power plants. Yes.
No, maybe.
But yeah,
No.
how else are we going to get enough power?
I mean, given the fact that we're doing presently 30% of our energy requirement off of some wind. No, we're
But
not.
again-
We're doing 40% off of wind presently.
Yeah, but again, we need that inertia.
Oh yeah, it's
get
grid-scale batteries. It's grid-scale battery by sticking them in everyone's car. And then having vehicle to grid.
Yeah, but is it really going to happen though? And is it going to happen in a timely fashion? Like, because
Yeah. So how many cars are there? 10 million?
do the current chargers support doing that?
As far as I'm aware, the only ones that don't support it are the very first Tesla chargers that are something like 20 years old now.
Oh, really? So, like the average electric car charger would support exporting to the grid.
The average one that someone has at home,
Yeah.
to be specific, because it's a different thing. Because the one you have at home is not a charger; it's an AC switch.
Sure.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying that's why they almost all have it, because basically all they are is an AC switch.
Yeah, it can work both directions, but if the car supports it, it can work both directions.
It's
fair
the
enough.
car.
Yeah.
It's all the cars and the standardization of it and working out how people are going to get paid and reimbursed and so on for the energy usage and so on. So yeah, that's the complicated part.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
That's the complicated side. But obviously, if you've got 100,000 people a year buying 70 kilowatts of battery, that's 70 kilowatts of battery across 100,000 people. If that's plugged into the grid, a reasonable amount of the time, which it will be when it's at home and so on,
Yeah.
that does an awful lot of your balancing for you as well.
Treb says people aren't going to support having the car's battery drained to power the grid. Well, that's the thing. You don't need to drain it. You just need to stabilize it.
You're talking about usages of like 10 kilowatts over a night.
Yeah,
maybe.
The actual power consumption is actually extremely low. The thing is like I say, it's about inertia. It's about when there's just a sudden demand or a sudden surge. The Euro finals are on. It goes to half time. Everyone turns on their kettle.
Yeah.
That's a real problem. Like, I know this was a joke in Flushed Away, but that's actually a real problem that the UK National Grid actually has to deal with when the footy is on and it's half time. They actually need to spool up secondary power because everyone's going to put the kettle on, and that is God knows how many thousands of 2 kilowatt kettles being clicked on at the same time.
Yeah.
That pulls the grid down.
Yeah.
And the energy power will catch up to that, but you need that momentary response for it. And so that's the thing. You don't need a lot of actual power. It's the response that you need. It's like having a lot of bypass capacitors.
Yeah.
That's what the car batteries are providing, is bypass capacitors. It doesn't actually have to power the grid. It's just got to provide that initial response.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's tiny fractions of power that are actually needed for it, because it's obviously an awful lot of kind of spike controlling. But the other thing as well that I think is reasonably interesting as a concept for it, though, is using it is time shifting. So you time shift your own house through your own electric car.
All right.
So you plug your car into your charger and your house runs off of your car. Between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. when there's the highest load and the highest per kilowatt grid pricing.
Yeah.
Then after 9 p.m. you switch onto the grid and charge the car effectively, and you stagger that throughout the night and you stabilize the unit price.
Yeah.
That's the thing to me that seems far more likely to happen, because each person is the king of their castle.
Yeah.
Because it's their energy, their electricity in their car powering their house, reducing their energy bill.
Yeah. And this is the thing, like Treb is saying, oh, this isn't practical, there's too many problems using everyone's car batteries and stuff like that. The technological means for this are software. That's a very easy problem to solve.
Yeah.
So then the next problem would be no one wants to do that. But if you tell them that it's going to save them money, that's a powerful incentive.
Yeah.
You know, that's a very telling them that this is going to reduce their energy bill and they don't have to do anything. And yes, their car will be charged in the morning. That's a very powerful incentive. Are we there yet? No. But again, this is based on the fact that, you know, again, the car chargers can do this already, and most modern electric cars can do this already. This is largely just a software problem. And software problems are pretty easy to solve. Hardware problems are difficult because you need everyone to buy a new car or a new charger. That's not something that's going to change anytime soon. But yeah, software problems, you know. Yeah.
The other thing as well as I quite like is Octopus, the energy supplier. If you have a VTG capable car and a VTG capable charger, and you're on their VTG package, they will give you free electricity effectively. You let them use your car for balancing their demand, and they will recharge it for free effectively. And like, you know, there's an awful lot of very clever balancing that's going on with it. Yeah.
And this is something that Dave Weldon Dave Bell just said you can get paid to charge by Octopus, and then Steve H just said I'm with Octopus. They're awesome for electric charging overnight.
Yeah.
So this is something that you can have now, today. This is not theoretical. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's like Octopus Flux, an import-export tariff. So you can manage it. If you have storage at home and solar, you tie it all together with a nice little bow, and you manage when you export to the grid, when you use off of that battery, and so on. And they will export it the highest export price and purchase back in to recharge it the lowest purchase back in price.
Yeah,
it's kind of
Treb says, it's not software, it's human factors. People won't see it as saving money, they'll see it as financially punished if I don't. I don't agree with that, because people bought solar panels. And that was a much harder sell than this. You know, like, for this, people are already buying the electric car. They don't need to make any further investments, whereas people bought into solar panels to save money. And lots of people bought into solar panels. Sure, I don't want to take a guess as to what the actual percentage of solar panel owners is in the UK, but it's extremely common to see houses with solar panels on the roofs. There is a decent number of people who bought into solar because it could save them money. So, and like, we don't...
And also it's a case of, obviously, it gives you a degree of energy independence.
Yeah.
Which is another comment.
Yeah, that's it.
And another angle to sell it from.
Yeah, like, this isn't something that everyone is going to buy into. There's going to be some people who are like, I'm not sharing my power, you know, and I'll power my own house. But even if you only power your own house, you're still reducing load on the grid. So it's still a win.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, like, again, this isn't something that's going to happen overnight, but this is something that the technology and implementation for exists today, now. And that's a lot sooner than we would imagine, I would say.
Because, for example, the Octopus Flux tariff gives you a fixed import and fixed import schedule. What's the word I'm looking for? What's the word to describe that? Timetable.
Okay,
that's the word I was looking for. Saying, right, at this time of day, we will have a high import price for you.
CSI.
So don't import it this time.
Yeah.
But there is a high export price. Therefore, export now.
Yeah.
Configure your home storage to export now, and you'll get paid more for it.
Yeah.
If you have spare. Now is not the time to import.
Yeah.
Now is the time to import, because we've given you the lower price because of the energy you've exported earlier in the day and used up during the peak usage.
Yeah.
And kind of managing stuff like that. And I think just the fact that people are building tariffs for that and making it so those ideas work better for people makes sense.
Trevor says, I was advised that if there's a power cut to the area, my parents' solar panels cannot provide power for domestic use. No energy independence with solar. It doesn't work like that. No, you do need battery storage. But
it depends how it's been configured.
Yeah, so it depends on your implementation there. However, also though, I'm using this as a comparison point to cars, which are by definition battery storage. So, like, I'm taking the worst case scenario here, but the example that we're actually working with completely solves that issue because it's battery storage. Your car can power your home in the event of a power outage. So yeah, EEV Blog has recently released a video about solar. I've seen that. I saw that appear in my feed. I haven't watched it yet. Reploid says I turned my panels off because they were costing me money. How? Like, I don't mean that facetiously, but how could solar panels be costing you money? I don't understand how that's possible. Firephone says go off grid. This is theoretically possible, but an awful lot more work than anyone would imagine. Now, I actually have a friend who's done this.
You'd need a lot more storage than
yeah.
you think you'd
I
need.
actually have a friend whose home is entirely solar powered with all the battery storage required to back that up.
Yeah.
It's not for the faint of heart. It's a big deal. And in addition to that, there's no half measures. Because he has a DIY solution, he's not allowed to have an interlink. He's not allowed to have because it's a DIY solution that he built himself. He has to unplug his house from the grid to use his system. Now you could probably
no, he does,
and that kind of makes sense because no one knows what he's built.
Yeah.
He could have some crazy mad scientist contraption.
Yes.
If you had a certified install, you could probably have an automatic changeover. But that would be exceptionally expensive if you had the battery storage to back it up.
Yeah, half and half. The is it Voltron? Oh, I can't remember who the inverters are. I think it's the Voltron set. Automatically have all of the stuff in it to allow you to have that independence, but also have the backup of the grid and do the interlinking.
Interesting.
And it's effectively built in.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the actual company is, but yeah, it's the one my friend uses for the installs he builds.
Yeah.
His company builds does the design work for the specification of and the acquiring and assembly of the equipment for solar installs with battery backup, but doesn't actually do the on-site installation anymore. He uses third-party contractors that.
Yeah.
But he does all of that, and the last one he did that I remember was actually one just down the road. And he's reduced someone's heating energy bill for oil from £3,500 a month to zero.
Bloody hell.
For the oil.
That's a hell of an oil bill. Yeah.
Yeah. Through the use of the system. And I think they installed something in the order of 300 kilowatts of battery storage.
Yeah.
Along with, a bajillion solar panels. But yeah. But it was, one of these houses that was 7 bedrooms, 2 swimming pools, 4 gyms.
Yeah. So
19 garage spaces.
Yes. Yeah. France proves how viable nuclear is. And yeah, like I agree. I still think having some nuclear baseline makes sense. I think it's a no-brainer to have some nuclear baseline. So I still think we need to build nuclear. However, obviously, having renewable as peak demands on top of nuclear is a good solution, I think, that everyone can agree with. So yeah. Heat pumps are not the solution, but they help a lot because heat pumps are an awful lot more efficient than any other way of heating or cooling your house.
Also, they're just electricity.
Yeah.
And you can get free electricity from solar and wind.
Yeah.
So you then get free heat inside your house.
This is another thing, like Trev said earlier on, that 95% of the world's CO2 is caused by generating electricity. It's like, yeah, but the thing is we can control how we generate electricity and we can capture at the source if we're burning something for electricity.
Or we could stop burning stuff.
Yeah. Whereas, like, this is kind of like the argument against electric cars. People are just like, oh, electric cars, they're using all that energy. You've got to generate that. And it's like, what? Are you saying that an internal combustion engine is more efficient than a power station? No, my son. No, it is not. That's not how this works.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
I don't.
Heat pumps are as expensive as not. No, they're not, Treb. You're objectively wrong.
I don't.
They're vastly more efficient, like orders of magnitude more efficient.
I don't have the specific full chain efficiency numbers in my head because I can't remember what they were. But as ballpark figures, the efficiency of getting the energy out of this insert unit of fuel burnt in power station to miles driven on the road,
Yeah.
that full chain through an electric car was something in the order of 80%.
Yeah.
Or like 85%, something in that region. Whereas the efficiency or the energy from one unit of petrol that's in the ground to the moving of the vehicle forward was like 3% or something like that.
Yeah.
5%. So it's just kind of a case of, even if you are using all this electricity and all of the electricity generation is less is polluting, you're still using an order of magnitude less energy to move the vehicle. Therefore, the total energy usage is still lower. Therefore, the CO2 output, if you're going to measure it in CO2 output, is going to be less because the amount of energy required is still total system lower.
Yeah. And also, we need to actually clear some lines here, because Trevor's saying, my dad said switch to heat pump doubled his heating bill. Firephone says you're in the wrong. Heat pumps are electric burners. Yes, they use electric. If you're paying an awful lot for electricity, but you're paying very little for gas, then yeah, your heating bill is going to be cheaper on gas. But if energy efficiency is what we're aiming for here, because that's what we're talking about with sustainability. And ultimately, again, we have to remember fossil fuels are running out and the world is on fire. We need to stop burning things. And the efficiency is what we need for a long-term solution. A heat pump doesn't create heat, it moves it. So it can be orders of magnitude more efficient. And the energy problem, this is a social problem, because currently electricity is exceedingly expensive because of social reasons.
Yeah, at least partially because it's linked to the price of gas units.
Yeah. And Firephone says gas is still cheaper. Maybe it is for now, but what are you going to do when we run out of gas?
Also, what you're going to do on the flip side when you decide, actually, I don't want to pay millions of pounds a year to Russia, say, because I'm politically opposed to them. I don't want to pay millions of pounds to the US for their gas.
Electricity.
I want to use the electricity that I can generate in this country.
Yeah, electricity is always going to be better because there's a dozen ways to make it, and you can change how you make it whenever you like, and it's drastically easier to control how you're creating it and what damage and what environmental impact that creation is having. Whereas with fossil fuels, all you can do is burn them at low efficiency. That's all you can do with it. So yeah, sure, if you've got cheap gas, you might be paying less for it, but that is an exceptionally short-sighted view of the world. That's my take on that, Stop with Russia, please. I mean, I'm not going to say that they're invading a country, but they're invading a country. I don't know what you want me to tell you. So, yeah, I'm not going to get into the politics, however, no. So, yeah, electricity prices will continue to increase, but they've been going down. That's the thing. Like, the energy cap in the UK, it soared, and again, this is a social issue, but also the energy cap has been going down in the UK because that is getting under control. Now, whether prices will increase or not, yeah, this is difficult to tell, but also, again,
depends on our grid mix.
Yeah, electricity is effectively an unlimited resource because there are so many ways that we can create it, whereas fossil fuels are a finite resource. They will only get more expensive. There is only one direction that fossil fuels can go, and that's up. Whereas electricity, there's so many ways of making it, there's so many ways of controlling it, there's so many places you can make it. We don't have to go and drill for electricity. We can make it wherever we like in the country because there's always places. Yeah, I mean, sure, you've got to put windmills where it's windy and stuff like that, but that's still something that we can do in a country. We don't have to rely on external factors for that, you know.
Yeah, and I think the perfect example is just the price per megawatt average.
Yeah.
For that is just the fact of, whilst we're still higher than we were, it's also come down from 2022 by £134 per megawatt. In 2 years, the price has come down by £132 per megawatt because it reached such an incredible high. So, the trend is down. And the trend before it spiked in 2022 was also down.
Yeah. Energy cap is hiding the cost of electricity. It's just moving the cost to taxes.
How?
Yeah. How so? Because I'm not. Is electricity subsidised? I don't actually know the answer to that question. There's obviously a degree of subsidisation because of the national grid. So obviously some of our tax pounds go toward paying for electricity. However,
there is an extremely long and complicated answer on that.
Yeah,
but
so we might not be able to.
As a base function, the generation of electricity is not subsidised. The price that one pays for a unit of electricity is not subsidised directly. However, the fossil fuel industry is heavily subsidised.
Yeah.
The profits of the 6 richest companies in the world the 6 of the top 10 richest companies, because I realised Nvidia and Microsoft are the top 2 richest at the moment, so that doesn't quite fit. But is subsidised massively by certainly the UK government.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a case of petrochemicals are heavily subsidised, so the actual true price of petrochemicals is arguably significantly higher than the actual price the consumer pays because of all of the subsidies.
Yeah. It's the problem when you're looking at scale electricity is that the factors involved is you have to do very weird calculations like levelized cost and things like that to actually give straight answer to these questions. So I don't know. So this is not to say that you're wrong. It's just the answer to that question is actually going to be significantly more complicated. But also, if we're going to argue that gas is cheaper now, well, in that case, I'm going to argue that the cost of electricity is going down, and my taxes so far, at face value, are not going up per se.
Yeah.
So that sword cuts both directions in that case.
Yeah, I don't have a timescale for these 2 news articles, but Sky News and The Guardian both say that at least £13 billion has been subsidised for petrochemical companies.
Yeah.
I don't know over what timescale, but that's £13 billion of subsidies.
I think, in all fairness, it's worth noting that a lot of renewable electricity is probably also subsidised. I think that must surely be true.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't actually know what the degree of subsidies is, but I know that the degree of subsidies on the petrochemical side that we see that gives us lower pricing on the petrochemical side is significantly higher.
Yeah.
But obviously I would imagine there's an awful lot of, because obviously you get discounts on the price of buying an electric vehicle from government subsidy there. There is a small amount of subsidy, I think, still available for purchasing solar panels for your house. Yeah. There's, green levelling up loans available for certain companies setting up to do, green technology, job generation and things like that. So whilst not directly subsidies and so on of the grid scale energy generation, there are certainly benefits, subsidies and so on less carbon intensive technologies.
Despite all of this, I'm still going to play the environmental card, which is that the world is on fire and we need to stop burning stuff. And renewable power is the way forward there. And that obviously has its own complications, like mining rare metals, etc., etc. I understand that building windmills and solar panels is not without its own problems.
But it's just a case of
this is still a more controllable factor than just burning things.
It's that thing of, I hope no one infers that I am saying that it's perfect, but simply a case of it is the next step, it is the next better thing. It is better, it does fewer harms, therefore it is something we should go for because it does fewer harms. And you should always be looking for the options that are ultimately going to be giving that lower, fewer harms option.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Windmills are really bad for animal life and people living in the area also. Citation needed, because a lot of people say this, and last time, and I'm not saying that I have proof on the contrary, but I've also heard that that's a lot of hogwash made by NIMBYs. So yeah, citation needed is what I would say to that. Heat pumps are less efficient if they're retrofit for old central heating systems of low surface area, high temperature. So that may or may not be true, I don't know. However, then stop retrofitting them. Then stop retrofitting them to radiator central heating systems. You know, if they don't work properly when you retrofit them to radiators, then don't retrofit them to radiators. You know, like air conditioning exists, and air conditioning is a heat pump. So yeah, that seems like a skill issue to me, quite frankly.
Yeah, I have no specific numbers for. I think what they're called. I think they're called high heat air source heat pumps. I have no specific figures for them, but they work, and the efficiency is greater than 1-to-1. So it's better than running just a resistive heater. So you're still overall using less total energy than you would be running a resistive heater, which is by definition 100% efficient, which therefore means you're using less total energy than a gas boiler. I'm not saying that saves you money. I'm not saying that that's cost effective. I'm not making any claim or statement on that because I don't have any data for that. But the statement is that it's running quote unquote above 100% efficiency because it's moving the heat as opposed to generating
I will play the environmental card here, which is in the interest of not burning stuff. So higher efficiency will always win out.
And we want to reduce the total system energy usage across the board. Because that means no matter how you're generating energy and how you're generating things, you need to do less of it because you need less generation. So yeah, that's kind of my view on almost all of it, is if you reduce the total system usage, you're going to ultimately win anyway, because you need to do less to get there because there's less there that you need to get to, kind of thing.
So it's also worth noting, so I think we're going to start wrapping up now because we're at like 3 hours and 20 minutes. However, lots of people are talking about retrofitting, and like Dave Weldon just said, a heat pump would cost me like 10 grand or more, etc., etc. Like a lot of this, it may well be that retrofitting stuff doesn't work, but we've also got to note that we need to think in the long term here, and that means that any newly built house should be built with new technologies in mind.
That's where my problem lies in almost all of this.
And a lot of them are not being built with new technologies in mind. Hell, a lot of new houses aren't even built with good broadband, And so a lot of this, I'm working on the assumption that, we might not be able to retrofit stuff to old houses. That might not work out. However, we can at least build new homes with better systems in mind, which means from this point onwards we're increasing and stuff like that. And and like this is a really complicated topic. There are valid arguments on both sides here. So like I'm not going to suddenly end the stream and say I win because I disagree, kind of thing. But also,
I'm leaving now, goodbye.
However, also, whenever you're dealing with heavy topics like this, I think it's really important to keep in mind that sometimes we've just got to throw ideas and thoughts and opinions out there and say, here's something to think about. Because we're not necessarily going to change each other's minds right away, but we've at least voiced ideas to each other.
Yeah, and I think an awful lot of it is the fact of my frustration and annoyance is the fact of new stuff is not being done in a way that we already know is better.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you're building a brand new house, you can build that house any way you want. So why wouldn't you build it with the most efficient heating and cooling method in mind? So yeah.
You require houses to be better, yet another limit on housing. So we should build shit houses that aren't fit for purpose?
That's it, you know.
The fuck is that argument?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like, yeah, we've been missing housing targets. Well, that's a problem then. Perhaps we shouldn't, you know, we've got to be fixing that then.
Perhaps we should be, you know, looking at building more houses then.
Yeah.
I don't see how building houses properly is a problem that you fix by... Or sorry, not having enough houses is a problem you fix by building houses incorrectly.
Yeah, like a lot of the counter arguments here are centered around what we're dealing with right now. And that's a valid argument to make. You know, right now, if gas is cheaper to heat with than electricity, that's a valid argument. But what we're arguing is what direction we should be moving in. Because if there is a better direction to move toward, then we should be moving in that direction. Yeah. You know, there's an analogy that I heard from somewhere. I can't remember what the original source for it was, but basically, imagine that we're on a bus route and we're heading toward the end of the bus route is sustainability, and you're riding with someone who's not quite ready to go all the way to the end of that route yet. So, do you say that you will refuse to ride with that person? No. You say, well, ride as far as you would like to go, because the further you go, the closer toward my goal where I want to get everyone to, the further toward that goal we're getting. So we're not all going to get there at the same time. However, if we're all moving in the same direction, then that is improvement.
Yeah, and it's also about just, you know, making it specifically about housing, improving the general quality of a housing stock.
Yeah.
Is very much a thing.
Yeah. Right. However, past that, I think it's time to end, because we could probably debate this out for another 10,000 hours, and we may never agree. However, it is time to go.
Your bed calls. Is that what you're saying?
Something is calling to me because I've had a lot of alcohol. Because I had the cider, but also I had the fire pit. So yes,
I had. Yes.
You had half a fire pit.
I had the special German.
You had a tipple of fire pit.
Yes.
So, yeah.
It was sufficient. I require no more.
Very well. If we can agree on the direction in the first place. Well, I'd like to think that sustainability is a goal that we can all agree on. Otherwise, we will never agree. You know, I don't think that's a tall order. But yeah, cider on an empty stomach. Yes, this is true. Next video, there isn't one in the works. I was working on a video this week, but it bombed, basically. Didn't go in the direction I wanted, so no bueno. But yes, there'll be something. Yeah, there's a couple of things in the queue that I said I might make a video on that. Don't know is the answer. Anyway, thank you for tuning in, everyone. I will see you soon. I won't be live tomorrow on Twitch because I'm going to a wedding. And I'll be tired when I get home. So I'll be live on Twitch on Thursday. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the super chats. See you all next time. Goodbye.